watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a BEŞİKTAŞ talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. Let me put myself in frame there for a second. I hope everyone is having a fantastic Friday evening. Of course, you would be remiss not to be having a fantastic Friday evening. The setup looks a little bit different today. I am joined by my good friend Ural Alhan, live from Amsterdam, right? Ural, you're living
Correct.
in Amsterdam.
Definitely, yes.
So, no Sinan and no Kartal today. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it. Kartal was out on the town. I think he had some plans. And Sinan was working. I couldn't believe my eyes. This is probably the most flexible person in terms of working time that I know. I've never ran into that issue before, I think, with him, where, I can't, I have to work. So I was like, what, you work? Of course, jokingly. But unfortunately, my usual co-host, Sinan Schwarding, can't make it. And neither can Kartal. But we are joined by our financier, Ural Alhan. So we are, of course, happy to have you, Ural. And thank you for joining me and taking the time to do so.
No worries. Hope I can be a worthy substitute.
I'm sure you'll be able to. In the meantime, guys, so you already saw the title of the episode. You know what's going on. If you aren't following and refreshing, hitting refresh on X or on Twitter or whatever you want to call it, or on Blue Sky or any social media platform, if you aren't constantly hitting that refresh button, maybe you did watch my video from earlier in the week updating the latest on Orkun Kökçü's move to Beşiktaş. Well, it looks like it's almost, as the Dutch would say, kogeltje rond, or as the Belgians would say, kogel door de kerk, because it looks like Orkun Kökçü is on the verge of signing for Beşiktaş. Fabrizio Romano tweeted, I believe, 45 minutes ago that everything is in kannen en kruiken. Again, a Dutch saying. I realize that many of you won't understand what that means.
You're making it tough.
I'm making it. I am trying to teach people some extra languages here. But basically that means I'll get to what Romano said. Romano said, I understand that that Benfica have given the player permission to travel. Earlier today, there was an update that I believe it was from Abola that said that the papers would be signed today if Beşiktaş were able to provide bank guarantees for the transfer fee, because we are talking about a lot of money here, Ural. You are the financial expert, and we're talking about a total fee of 25 million euros plus 5 million euros in advance now, a loan fee, so to speak, and it's an obligation to buy. So in total, 30 million euros. That is not just Beşiktaş's transfer record, that is currently the Turkish transfer record, shattering last year's En-Nesyri record for 19.5 million, so 10.5 million more. Of course, this record is maybe not going to stand for very long, because Galatasaray are on the verge of signing Osimhen for 70 million or 75 million, depending on whether they agree to their latest offer or not. But still, 30 million euros, that is not just a lot of money. That is more than Beşiktaş have spent on their other top... Well, no, it's not. But it's almost as much as Beşiktaş have spent on their other top 3 signings, which is Mucci for 10, Musrati for 12, and our good friend Tammy Abraham for 15. So that's 37 total, and we're paying 30 for Orkun. What do you think about that? We talked about it already a couple of weeks ago. Well, if you remember, the Beşiktaş are going to try to be probably putting transfer fees off for the BEŞİKTAŞ money to come into effect. But what do you think of this? Is this a wise way to spend that money that we are yet to generate?
I don't know if we should talk finances with all the happy news because everybody's so pleased with the transfers, and I think we are too. So I don't know if there's anything to talk about financially, because surely Adal is not talking about it, and he has some sort of newfound money or some strength, newfound strength, because he's raking them, he's bringing them in one by one. So that's
It's
amazing to see. But to be sort of serious, if you look into this, because everybody has these big question marks of how is he doing this, etc., etc. It's obvious, right? There's a lot of installments. He's agreeing on installments. It's for a reason that it's 1 plus 1 year loan, and then paying installments to buy the player. Obviously, that's the reason. We have a limited budget. We have a limited income for this year. Next season it will be different because of the project, which eases once we repay the banking loan. It eases our cash flow, and then that cash flow, let's say 50 million per year, that can be used for these installments. And so there is budget in that sense. If you can, and obviously Adala trusts that he can use that, and that it will happen in time, and that he will be able to pay those installments of those players, and he can even add more to it.
Yeah.
Plus, apart from this, I think the stadium sponsorship.
Oké. Hopelijk zijn we nu terug live. Alright, guys, let us know in the chat if we're back. Hopefully, whatever I did now fixed it. It was unfortunate. Let's see. Back. Okay, yeah. Fantastic. Thank you, Nathan, for the very quick update. Sorry about that, guys. My software crashed and it froze, so not much to do about that. So we were talking about the stadium sponsorship, Ural. So you said that the stadium sponsorship might be up again in the near future. So hopefully we can get a good deal and with a nice company. We don't want to have some weird yogurt brand on our stadium, right? Something I always take pride in, that Beşiktaş always have good shirt sponsors, or at least a lot better than our rivals. I think Bekel's a fantastic sponsor to have on the shirt. Unfortunately, they don't really pay great money. And Vodafone
that should be improved.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think so. I think Bekel should either pay significantly more, which they easily could if they wanted to, or we need to change the sponsor. But hopefully then it would be a quality sponsor. But you know what? Let's not get too much into the financial stuff, because we tend to do that, of course. But let's get into what these moves, I should say, really mean. But yeah, I think we can all agree Kyle Walker-Peters is an exciting signing, and I think if it weren't for Orkun being signed roughly at the same time, that we would all be very happy and getting into Kyle Walker-Peters and all that kind of stuff. And please, guys, if you have comments about the signing, leave them in the live chat and we'll talk about it. But I think everyone really is excited about one guy, one man, and that's Orkun Kokcu. Yeah, one of the things I'm seeing right now, especially, of course, in the Dutch media, where Orkun, he played for many years for Feyenoord, of course, came through the youth academy at Feyenoord, and before that at Groningen. Born and raised in the Netherlands, of course. His parents and his family, of course, Turkish. But yeah, people in the Netherlands are a little bit baffled by this, right? Like, not the Turks, of course, but I'm sure the Turks are as well, if they're not Beşiktaş fans, but even if they're Beşiktaş fans, perhaps. But yeah, a lot of people are saying he's throwing away his career. What would you say to people who say that, Ural? Do you agree that Orkun Kokcu is throwing away his career?
I understand that, especially Dutch people, Feyenoord fans, are responding like this, because, as you know, the Turkish is known as sort of a retirement league, because until now players only came, let's say, at the end stages of their career, and Orkun is clearly in the spring of his career, so that response is understandable. But I don't think of course, I don't think he's throwing away his career. I think he also, apart from the love for the club, there's also an opportunity for him, because he will play. Of course, he will most likely become captain. He can take a large role, and also, apart from that, I think, let's say 1 or 2 seasons, he can still make a move, or a move that he wants to, let's say, one of the top 5 leagues. That would, in my opinion, would still be a possibility. So I don't think it's fair to say that he throws away his career. Sitting on the bench at Liverpool was, I think, more throwing away your career than anything else, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I even have another take on that. People say he's throwing away his career, and in most cases, I would agree. If this was a choice for money, for example, then I would agree with you. Okay, he's 24 years old. He's in his prime, or not even really fully in his prime. But I think, a lot of football fans are football romantics. But they aren't football romantics when it comes to Turkey. Because in a lot of people's eyes, Turkey is, like you said, a retirement home. But what you need to understand is, I think for Orkun Kokcu, it's a very different situation. For Orkun, it's not, I'm going to cash now. He had offers from many big clubs, including, as you said, Liverpool, Newcastle United, Manchester United were interested. There were also other clubs. Inter Milan were interested, the Champions League finalists of this past season. So lots of clubs were interested in Orkun. But I think what people need to understand, this is not the first time that Orkun is on the verge of signing for Beşiktaş. Back in, I believe, 2018 or 2019, he was very close to signing for Beşiktaş. The transfer didn't happen at the last moment. Feyenoord was asking for too much money. This was back when Orkun was still in the under-19s for Feyenoord. And he was very unhappy at the time because some promises weren't kept, he felt. And he told his dad, who was also his agent, where we heard that one before this window, but he told his dad, make it happen, make the transfer to Beşiktaş happen. Now, a very important caveat is that Orkun and his entire family, including, of course, his mom, his dad, his brother, and a lot of other members of his family are die-hard Beşiktaş fans. You can compare it, if you are listening to this and you're a Beşiktaş fan, or you're a Juventus fan, or you're a Galatasaray fan, or you're a Manchester United fan, it doesn't matter. You grew up being a fan of a club. I think a lot of you, I recognize this at least when I was still playing football and when I still had these illusions of, maybe I can have a career, or just fantasizing about it, even though you knew it was never going to happen, but you're fantasizing, if I was really good at playing football. What I remember, one of these things I said to myself and to my friends was like, everyone wants to go to Real Madrid and everyone wants to go to Barcelona, right? But if you're a fan of a club, let's say you're a fan of Ajax, and your dream is to play for Ajax, and not every player has the dream to play for Real Madrid. So there's people who have the dream of being the captain of their favorite club, wearing the number 10 of their favorite club, and that's all they want. That is, for them, that's the pinnacle. Everyone thinks, you if you're a footballer, you're a professional footballer, you have to go and try and achieve the highest that's possible. But I think it's not the same for everyone. And I kind of find it a little bit narrow-minded to say, okay, he's throwing away his career. First and foremost, I think Orkun will have a very, very fair wage. I think it'll be close to 5 million euros, maybe more. I think that is probably as much, if not more, than he would make at Liverpool net. So, and the same as Manchester and whatever. So money-wise, he doesn't need to go to the Premier League for money. He can come to Beşiktaş, earn a very good living, and on top of that, he has the opportunity at 24 to become, as you said, maybe in a short amount of time, the club captain, maybe wear that legendary number 10 shirt that was worn before him by Sergen, that was worn before him by Şifo Mehmet. That is something special, I think, for someone like Orkun. And I think people underestimate that because he did really have offers from big clubs and he turned them away, he turned them down. And whether or not it is to sit on the bench, as you say, at Liverpool, which I think with Orkun's talents, maybe he starts off on the bench, but I'm sure he fights his way into that team at some point, especially with Arne Slot, who he has a very good bond with. Yeah, I think this is a choice of the heart. This is not something that I think it's fair. I understand the reactions in the Netherlands. I understand people's reactions. Why is he going to Beşiktaş? But like take for example Victor Osimhen. There you can say, in my opinion, okay, he's kind of throwing away his career. Now, I'm not saying I don't understand Osimhen. He just spent a season at Galatasaray. He was treated like a king. He clearly loves that environment. So I understand why he would do it. But Victor Osimhen, yeah, he doesn't have this built-in childhood love for this club. So for him, it's a little different, in my opinion. But for Orkun, I think it is something very rare in modern-day football. I think the love for a club rarely gets expressed in such a way. Don't know if you agree with that, Ural.
I think that's evident, right? And I think there's also another factor in this, and that's we heard something. Well, we saw all sort of fight. I think, well, the fight during the World Cup for clubs. There's some unhappiness there, and this is also not the first season that he seems to be unhappy at Benfica. So I think that also plays a role. He's imported for Benfica. He was their highest transfer at the time. So he's not a small player there. But I think his unhappiness, not feeling at home or not getting the value that he wanted or expects, I think that also plays a role. And he's certain of one thing: he will get that love anyway at Beşiktaş, right? Because he's making this big move, because all of the fans understand what kind of decision he's made, right? Because I think how many of us would take this option rather than maybe go to Inter or to right and then think, okay, later on I will go. So not many fans, I think, will or not many people, if they were in his shoes, would take this decision. I think so. I think you're absolutely right. There's a huge love for the club, but also I think also career-wise, it's not because he can be an important player, lift this team up, because don't forget the project in itself, right? Because Beşiktaş is not Beşiktaş of 1 or 2 years ago. There's really, in this transfer window, a renewal. I think the first signs of that new strategy, buying young players, that project that Adal and also Solskjaer talked about, I think that's happening, and it could also be that Orkun understands it and wants to be part of that, and that would be the start of the change that we also long for, right? So it's not only the heart. I don't think we should rule out these arguments as well, because I think I think they play a role in his decision, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like you said, it's not the first time that he's had a falling out at Benfica. Of course, he very famously expressed his displeasure with Roger Schmidt last season, I believe it was, because Roger Schmidt played him in a more defensive role, played him more as a 6 last season, and he wasn't happy with that. He wasn't happy about that. He believed that it limited his ability because, Orkun is somebody who likes to get involved around the box. He's somebody that scores goals frequently. He's somebody that gives assists. And I think he felt that his talents were being hampered. Now, whether or not he was right to speak up, that kind of led to a falling out. Then it did get kind of swept under the rug. He got off with a fine, and he was put in the team again, and actually got in his more after that. despite being dropped and being fined, after he got put back in the team, he did play him in a more advanced, a more attacking role afterwards, Roger Schmidt. So I think in that scenario, Roger Schmidt maybe wasn't so unhappy about the fact that Orkun wasn't happy, but I think he just felt like, okay, you should not have aired the dirty laundry. Of course, this second falling out now at the Club World Cup with their current coach was much worse. It was in a game in the group stages against Auckland. I believe in the 61st minute, Orkun got subbed off. Benfica ended up winning this match 6-0. They put on Renato Sanchez instead of him, and Orkun was very upset. He didn't want to come off. He felt disrespected, I guess, by the substitution. So, I mean, I think in a match against Auckland, that is not very important to think about. You know, I mean, it's you know, they're small fry, right? With all due respect for Auckland, for him to that frustrations to boil over like that and to come out like that, there must be some underlying tension pre-existing there already. There must be some issues with the coach already, maybe. And almost, I believe, afterwards he went to the bench. There were still words between the coach and Orkun, and his teammates had to hold Orkun back. Yeah, that's a bad look. The coach did say afterwards.
You can read lips.
Yeah, I mean the coach afterwards did kind of, you know, downplay it, and I believe Orkun also publicly apologized and stuff like that. But yeah, it seems like those fences weren't meant to be mended anymore, and yeah, Benfica are now choosing to, I guess, just cut ties and just cut their losses, so to speak, because they paid 25 million euros for him a couple of years ago, and with bonuses that has gone up to 30 million euros now, and they are selling him for exactly the same thing, 30 million euros. So they are not making any profit, which is of course bad news for Feyenoord as well, because Feyenoord had a 25% on the next sale, but only on the profit of the next sale. So Feyenoord will not be getting any money from this transfer other than the educational fee for having him go through the academy, which is 1.2 million euros, according to 1908.nl, this information, which is thoroughly reliable for anything Feyenoord. So I understand, for example, Feyenoord fans aren't too happy about this. They probably expected the club to cash in and get another 5 or 10 million out of this. But yeah, that's...
Ideally, yes, but they... Let's be honest, also the transfer to Benfica was already quite a large sum, right? Mm-hmm. So they were already pleased with that. And yeah, I guess you win some, you lose some. But isn't the fact that Benfica was ready to sell him without a profit, isn't that the big surprise rather than Orkun choosing for Beşiktaş?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, it's also an election year for Benfica, I hear. So they, I don't know. I think they probably thought, okay, it can happen once and we will accept it. But if it happens a second time, then it is going to happen a third time as well. So they decided not to put up with it anymore. And the weird thing is, like, I think with this situation, Orkun is kind of getting this stigma now as a troublemaker. And at Benfica, there's an argument to be made for that now. But the thing at Feyenoord, I don't think he was ever really seen as a troublemaker. There were some issues at Feyenoord as well when he got the captain's armband there. But that was a different type of issue. That was more an issue of he was really unhappy. He couldn't really cope with the pressure initially. He didn't know how to carry himself as a captain. You also need to keep in mind, this is 21 years old. And you're already becoming the captain of one of the biggest clubs in the Netherlands at 21 years old. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to put on a player, I think, especially a player like him who is very cerebral, who puts that type of stuff in his head. I think for him that was a difficult moment, and he then went with his brother. I think he went on a Hajj to Mecca, and afterwards he came back and he was reborn. And he led Feyenoord to a championship and became a really, really good captain for them on the pitch, on and off the pitch. I think he led by example, his fiery temperament. He was always one of the the front runners in the battle against the big teams. So yeah, it's a weird story there. On one end, you could be like, oh, I hope he doesn't start creating trouble at Beşiktaş. Some people may think that. But on the other hand, you have somebody who at Feyenoord proved that he is a really, really strong player mentally, and somebody who is a natural leader, something that we've been saying on the show, well, that Beşiktaş really, really lack. And you alluded to it already. It's possible, and it's already hinted at, that he could become the captain of the team relatively quickly. How do you feel about that? Do you think it would be right to give him the captain's armband right away?
Maybe not right away, because that also gives a little bit of a bad message. But to be fair, Mert Günok, our keeper, is now the captain, right?
Yes.
The acting captain, because okay, we have sort of this honorary captain with Necip, but we all know he's not a first 11 player. So he's a captain for the locker room, so to say, off the pitch. Okay, fine. That can sort of continue, but with the new rules, with referees that only communicate with captains, it doesn't make sense to have a goalkeeper as the captain, because he's not going to run up every time to the ref to sort of complain about things. So you need a field player to be the captain. So with that in mind, I think it's very natural to have him as captain. I wouldn't give him maybe banned right away, but I think in a couple of months or whatever, I think then he could be given maybe co-captainship. Because if you don't want to step on Mert's toes, something like that. There's with this story, I think you can easily explain it, and it also makes sense for the team, apart from the person, to be honest. So I think he should receive it, but maybe not day one, because he need to get to know the players, etc. So you give him some time to land, instead of immediately having that captain role.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think normally I would say a player freshly coming into a club, you should never give them the captain armband. But I think there's also this factor of, you never really say never, right? There's always an exception to the rule. I think normally speaking, if you're a serious big club, you have a long-standing captain already. But really, in the last couple of years, ever since Atiba retired, Beşiktaş haven't really had that de facto captain. Yes, we have Necip, who is kind of a spearhead.
Be gentle.
Yeah, I mean, he's a figurehead of the club, right? In one way or another. But I wouldn't say he is like Atiba. He isn't Quaresma. He isn't Tayfur. He isn't Sergen. He isn't Shifo Mehmet. Certainly not. No. You know, he's not that type of a captain. Necip has been with the club for a very, very long time. A lot of people respect him, and he deserves that respect, of course. But like you said, he's not really a first 11 player, so he's not. He's a club captain, but he's not really the on the pitch captain. Exactly. And with Mert, again, you know, you make a fair point. A goalkeeper as captain is not ideal, especially with these new rules where only the captain is allowed to speak to the referee. And yes, if the goalkeeper is the captain, he can delegate that privilege to another player. But I think we lack strong leaders right now. We have some great players like Rafa. He's a fantastic footballer, but he's not a captain. He's not really a leader on the pitch. We've spoken about this last season as well. Rafa is not really a leader. He's a fantastic player. He's one of the best players I've seen wear the Beşiktaş jersey, but he isn't a leader. And that's something we have so dearly missed. I think right now, maybe Gabriel Paulista is a potential leader because of his experience and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's only been at the club for a year as well. And how long will he stay? I think Orkun, being 24 years old and being such a loyal, diehard Beşiktaş fan, making huge sacrifices to make this deal happen, Orkun, let's not forget that as well, because, you know, we're talking about, is he throwing away his career? No, I don't think he is throwing away his career, but I think he is sacrificing a dream that other people, that 90% of people have, playing for Liverpool, playing for Manchester United, playing for Inter Milan, playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world. That is something that 90% of footballers cherish as a dream, and he's sacrificing that in favor of playing for Beşiktaş. And I know you said, okay, maybe in 2-3 years' time he can make the move from Beşiktaş elsewhere, but I think, Ural, if this works out, if this whole rebuild, this new project as we were talking about, if this works out, and he can be the figurehead of this new generation, Oğuzhan Özyakup on steroids, I would say, because I think Oğuzhan was kind of the figurehead of that Feda era, and that then bleeded into those 2 championships. But then guys like Mario Gomez came along, guys like Quaresma came along. Oğuzhan was still a very big part of it, but I don't think Oğuzhan was ever truly the face of that project. I think Orkun Kokcu could be the face, not only the face of this project, but also the face of this generation. And I could see this turning into, rather than a 2-3 year thing, this could turn into a 10-year thing. I think this could be, I'm not saying it's going to be that, but I could see it happen, because he is going to Beşiktaş at 24 now. And yeah, of course, in 2 years' time, he's only still going to be 26, 27 years old, and he can still always make that move to Europe. But I think at that point, probably, 26, 27, the really big clubs probably aren't going to come knocking anymore. It's probably going to be more like a B-tier level team at that point. I don't know if that's something that Orkun wants at that point anymore, Like, I think he has an opportunity now to go to some of Europe's elite clubs and fight for his place there. But I think he's making this choice because he has been on the verge of this choice in the past. Feyenoord obviously worked out really well. Staying at Feyenoord worked out really well for him. And I think also it's much better that he joins Beşiktaş now than if he would have joined 5 years ago or 7 years ago.
For sure.
But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so I definitely think that staying at Feyenoord was the right choice for him. I don't think he would ever be the player he is today if he came to us back then. Also, not just, maybe he would be at the same level as a footballer, but I don't think he would have the same respect. I don't think, if you take Oğuzhan Özyakup as an example, okay, Oğuzhan had, I think, 2 or 3 really good seasons. Kind of dropped off a little bit in the 2014, 2015 season, especially second half or after Sosa came. But then he picked it up again in 15, 16. But Oğuzhan, yeah, it's a weird one. I don't think he ever fully got the respect he deserved from the fans. He also had some issues with the fans at points, getting booed and stuff like that. And of course, it can happen to any player. But I do think Orkun is going to come in with almost a Quaresma level of credit. Credit that very few players have ever had, I think. And I think Orkun is going to make good on that. But also, yeah, I think he's going to be a different status than Oğuzhan was, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, and that's obviously because of his performance at Feyenoord, at Benfica, and for Oğuzhan that was different, performance-wise. And my argument, or the reason why I said maybe 2 years and then he can make that move, that was from the perspective of, is he throwing away his career?
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's so young. He could still, if he really would want to, he could still sort of make that move, have a good performance, and could still do that. But I agree with you. Is that sort of, he might not want to do that and become sort of a legend. Have that real legend status with the club and become the leader for the next 10 years. That's obviously that's more. I would like to see that. On the other hand, if he really has that desire and that he can earn the club some money, even, because that's also a gift, right? Let's say you sell it for 40 or for 50 or something like that. That's a huge gift, right? You get a player like that, and then also you earn money, and then he can come back later, whatever. So there are a lot of scenarios that could fulfill those needs, but obviously I think everybody would I think if I look around, I think everybody would want him to stay forever.
Yeah.
It's,
It's like Atiba, right? You want him to finish his career, and I think a lot of people would have wanted Quaresma to finish his career at Beşiktaş, but I think Quaresma just wasn't ready to finish his career, unfortunately.
Feyenoord will want him for at least a retirement year, I think. So we need to take that into account.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I
mean, they can want it, but I think if things work out and he does become a legend and the face of a generation, I think he will finish his career at Beşiktaş, and I think he would deserve to do so. And another thing that you said earlier that I think is interesting is you talked about, okay, there's a lot of players, they may have this preference for a club and stuff like that. Mesut Özil is an example. Hakan Çalhanoğlu is another example. But these, like, the vast majority of people who, even if they're very, very talented, who have this youth preference for a club, like those two guys I just mentioned, they think in the back of their head, yeah, I'll go there when I'm 32. And that's exactly what's happened. Mesut Özil went when he was, 32, 33. Hakan Çalhanoğlu now in this summer was kind of pushing for the move. He's 31 years old. Probably not going to happen now because Galatasaray spent all their money in one place. But yeah, those are situations where, I mean, I'm not saying that's bad. I think Hakan Çalhanoğlu, if he comes to Galatasaray right now, he can contribute a lot. He's still a fantastic player. But it's not the same as coming at 24. I don't think these players would have ever made that decision. I think it's very, very rare that the love for your club is this big that it trumps other ambitions like that. It's something you almost never see. I can't think of an example, really, of another player who, in absolute, like you said, the spring of his career, not even the summer, in the spring of his career, goes and who has such a promising career at that, and who has options of really, really big clubs. I can think of an example of a player who sacrificed that to go play in, with all due respect, a lesser league, and with all due respect to us, to Beşiktaş, a club that is, for us the most beautiful club in the world, but we have to be realistic. We aren't Liverpool and we aren't Inter Milan, right?
No, for sure. This is exceptional. But I think what's nice about this, or obviously everybody's in awe that he makes this decision, but the whole fan base has the same feeling, right? Everybody understands how big this is and how exceptional this decision is, and it's really very nice to see, because usually when you get transfers in, you always have people that oppose, etc. But I haven't heard any opposing to the player.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, okay, is it too much? Can we sort of pay for it, etc.? That's a different discussion. But no, but everybody recognizes how big this is, and that's very nice to see. To be honest, within the fan base of our club.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I really have the feeling that it's buzzing since this news came out, and nobody believed that this would happen. And now it looks like it's happening, and I can't wait to see the arrival and maybe the signing ceremony, etc. Because it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah,
it's there's a lot of buzz about this.
Yeah, for sure,
which is very nice.
Yeah, that is so true. And even Fenerbahce and Galatasaray fans, I'm not even noticing a lot of negativity from them. I think they're also kind of in awe. Like, normally you'd expect them to be doing what the Dutch people are doing, like, oh, he's throwing away his career. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? Yeah, but I haven't even seen that from them. Maybe it's just because I'm trying to not surround myself with with those.
No, but I think you're right.
Yeah, and
there's not much to comment about it. So I think you're right. They also recognize, like, oh, that's like a big move. An unexpected big move from Beşiktaş as well, right? To make it happen, because also let's not forget that side.
And
this opportunity rose, but closing it is another story, right?
Orkun, sorry, Ural. Remember a couple of weeks ago when Serjan Dikme said Beşiktaş are ready to spend 25 to 30 million on the right player if the age is right and the talent is right and this and this and that. And we all thought, what is he saying there's no chance in hell. But this MFer was right. Do you think he knew?
Are you going to praise him now?
Yeah, I mean, he had such a big blunder yesterday with the whole Jetson thing, right? That
For sure, yeah.
either the club clearly didn't want getting out already, or, I mean, I think it has to be that, right? Because otherwise, why would they instantly dismiss it like that? Otherwise, so many bullshit rumors get out all the time, and the club doesn't bother dismissing it, but they were like, bam, dismiss this straight away. And also, the way he reacted afterwards, I don't know if you saw him post-game, post the friendly match that we'll talk a little bit about as well, but yeah, he was like a beaten dog almost, and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna shut up. So I think he got a proper chewing out by Sedla Adala there, because I think that was something that wasn't meant to be put out there yet.
I agree, but I think if we are trying to get the 50% of Jetson from Benfica, and you don't want that sort of on the back end, you're dealing with CSKA Moscow, I think it was, Spartak, then right, it makes sense, and the news might be true. So either you're a serious journalist and you stand by your news, or you respect the club's wishes and you wait on the news until it's safe to release, right? It's either of those two. But he did something, he made a shit show out of it just by releasing the news and then sort of pulling it back. So I think that was really bad on his part, especially if the club is still in sort of precarious negotiation about Jetson, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but I don't know if he already knew about this. I can imagine that, because Adal also said a couple of months ago that this was sort of in the planning, right? That was also tied to this approval. He said, okay, I'm gonna really get a serious player if we can get this project going, etc., etc. So it also doesn't, I don't know if he had sort of inside information on that. But
I doubt it though, because I think this kind of arose very abruptly, because supposedly the Jens Kajuste transfer got put on hold because of Orkun, and not necessarily because Beşiktaş won't have the money for it anymore or anything like that, or because they play in the same position, which they don't, obviously, because Orkun is more of an 8, a deep laying playmaker. Ozan, he's a Ozan type, essentially. He's not a defensive midfielder. And obviously we still need a number 6 to pair with Orkun. But supposedly, according to some people, Jens Kajuste was put on hold because of the opportunity to sign Orkun. They feel that a different profile of defensive midfielder is needed next to Orkun. Now, I don't really know what that different profile would be. To me, I think Jens Kajuste could perfectly accommodate Orkun and play in function of Orkun, but that is one of the things that is being put out there right now regarding Jens Kajuste, who was also on the verge of signing, but some conflicting reports there. Some are reporting, okay, the player hadn't agreed yet to the terms. Others are saying, oh no, it's Beşiktaş who put it on hold. So it's kind of difficult, really, to find out there what exactly is going on. What do you think about that situation?
Yeah, so on the one hand, I was thinking, wasn't Temi then sort of the promised big transfer? But obviously it's less than 25 million. But I thought maybe that was it, because I think Orkun was really an opportunity that arose. Right, this wasn't planned. They were not planning to get him. It was an opportunity, and they jumped on it.
Or Osimhen, really, if you think about it, it's kind of our Osimhen situation, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And also very similar. And sorry to interrupt you there, Ural, but because there's always these opportunity signings in Turkish football. We've had them many times, but other than Osimhen, I can't really think of a player that came to Turkey in their prime where there's absolutely nothing to say negatively. Because, like, for example, with Tammy Abraham, you can say, okay, he's in his prime, but he is coming off a really bad knee injury. There's question marks there, you know? I feel like there's always this little caveat, always these question marks around players that come in the primes of their career, which doesn't happen too often to begin with, especially when they're of the profile of Orkun, of the profile of Osimhen. That doesn't happen very often in Turkish football. I mean, Osimhen especially, that was like one of the top strikers in the world of the last couple of seasons. Like, for something like that to happen, it's absolutely insane. I think you can put Orkun at a very similar level. I don't think it's exactly the same, but, like, I mean, he's even younger. He just had a very solid season with Benfica. He also had a very good first season at Benfica. He's one of the top midfielders, playmaking number 8 in Europe right now. Yeah, this very exceptional player like that comes to Turkey, and that there isn't even something to say, oh, but this guy, okay, he has a dodgy knee, or his hamstrings are made of elastics. You know, like, there's nothing, right? You can't say anything negative about the transfer itself. The only thing you can say is, okay, can Beşiktaş afford it? Isn't it too expensive? That is the only thing you can say. But on the player itself, there is nothing you can say, I think.
No, and very befitting the culture of Beşiktaş. To be honest.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here, this is an example of what everybody's talking about. Love for Beşiktaş, our culture, the way we carry ourselves, etc. So it's a very good example, and it's just like you said, a leader for a new generation. It's a very good example, or prime example, and I hope that the club also makes good use of that. But to come back to your, is this the reason why maybe they could use the transfer is postponed, or maybe not going through at all? I don't think it has much to do with finances, my personal opinion. I heard 2 scenarios. One, they want to have a different 6. But the other scenario, which I thought was interesting, is that Ole wants to play with 2 8s instead of with a 6 and an 8. If that's the case, and because of Orkun, if that's the case, then it doesn't make sense to play Kajus. On the other hand, if you play 2 8s, I don't know how you feel about, but if you play 2 8s, I don't think our backline is fit to play that.
Yeah.
So you need then, I think, a different central defender.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you see teams play with 2 8s? I mean, with a 3-man midfield with 2 8s and a 10. That I can't.
Yeah.
That when does that happen? I feel like it's always 2 8s and a 6, or 2 6s and a 10, or an 8 and a 6 and a 10.
It's too much. I agree. So I was surprised about that theory, but
I think I'm calling bullshit on that theory, quite frankly, because the club is clearly still in the market for a 6. All rumors point towards that and indicate that. I definitely think Beşiktaş are still going to move for a 6. But, guys, of course, we have Demir Ege back. We have Kartal and Sinan back. We saw their performance in the friendly yesterday against Sint Pölten. Of course, only a 2nd division team in Austria, so you have to take that into consideration. But, guys, let us know in the comments. I don't want to get into the friendly super deeply, just between the two of us. Well, I kind of just want to see what people have to say about it. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the friendly, and then we will answer and engage with the chat and talk about the friendly in that regard. I don't want to, first both of us have like a 10-minute opinion monologue on the friendly. No, let's just get into it with the chat. So, guys, drop your opinions in the live chat on the friendly from yesterday. Let us know how you feel about Orkun. Let us know how you feel about Kyle Walker-Peters. Let us know how you feel about any other rumors right now, and anything you want to talk about. Let us know in the comments. One more thing I really wanted to get out of the way before we start getting to some comments, Ural. This is, I think, in my opinion, the biggest transfer Beşiktaş have made, or are about to make, rather, since Ricardo Quaresma. I think this is, in terms of fanfare, I can't think of a single transfer that has been bigger in the last couple of years. Of course, there have been other signings with a lot of fanfare attached to it. Mario Gomez, there was plenty of fanfare for that. I think for Dembaba there was a lot of fanfare. There were other players for sure, but I think this is Quaresma levels of hype, Quaresma levels of excitement. And really, if I think about it, there's only two moments in the 25 plus years that I've been following the club very closely. There was the presentation of Ricardo Quaresma in 2010, and then there was in 2019 the presentation of Sergen as the coach. Those two moments are etched in my memory as some of the fondest non-on-pitch related moments. And I think Orkun is maybe about to blow both of those moments out of the water, because I expect the stadium, Beşiktaş Stadium, to be packed to the brim with fans for his signing ceremony. Do you agree that this is perhaps the biggest transfer since Quaresma? And how do you think it measures up to Quaresma? Do you think it's even bigger? Because I've seen people make the argument that it's even bigger than that.
Yeah, well, I think because of what you said, right? Usually the transfers come, but they come with a backstory. So there's a reason why they would choose.
Even Quaresma chewed out at Inter, flopped at Barcelona,
Exactly.
Flopped at Inter. You always have these players like they flopped somewhere. They're really good players, but they flopped. Even Mario Gomez flopped at Fiorentina, right? And it's either that they're coming off of a high profile flop, or they're coming off of a bad injury or something like that. Sorry to interrupt you, but you know.
No, but I think that those were the examples. So for Quaresma, even for Quaresma, I think that's true, right? Seen as a problem child, etc., etc. So there was a reason to that people thought, okay, yeah, we understand that he goes to Beşiktaş, even he wasn't in sort of the it wasn't late in his career, but there was sort of an explanation to it. But again, with Orkun, there's no sort of a negative point about this, and if I understand, and if this is all true, there's a lot of fans talking about even that they're not living in Istanbul, traveling to Istanbul to be there at the airport.
Yeah,
even, let alone
honestly,
the stadium.
I have never been this tempted to go just for something like that. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do the financially responsible thing and not fork out 600 plus euros for a plane ticket for a two-way trip and for 2 days or whatever. I'm not gonna do it, but I have to. If I didn't have a kid and I didn't have responsibilities and stuff like that, I would go in a heartbeat. Honestly,
Imagine. So imagine people that have a sort of a easier choice because it's maybe a travel by car or even by plane within Turkey. So a little bit easier, I guess. So yeah, I don't know if this is all true. Then it's gonna be we're gonna lock down the airport.
Let us know in the comments, by the way, if you plan to go to Orkun's arrival at the airport and if you plan to go to the signing ceremony, which is expected, not yet confirmed. But do let us know as well in the comments, guys, if there's any big updates in regards to arrival time, stuff like that. But yeah, back to the point, Ural, do you think, how do you think it measures up to Quaresma and to other signings in the past?
It's difficult because we know what Quaresma brought, right? Because I think him coming, but especially his performance, that's what makes us so fond about this being a player of Beşiktaş. Always you have high expectation of Orkun. We all think he's a good player, but still, we need to see that performance and result, and hopefully championships, etc., because that would really sort of solidify the legend status. So I think it's bigger, but it also a little bit ties into the performance that we're going to hopefully going to see. So that makes it a bit with a sort of a small caveat or a footnote on that side. But I think you're absolutely right with sort of the excitement that the fans have for this and how big they want to make it. So a question for you: how do you feel about him arriving together with Kyle Walker-Peters if they combine that?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't do that, to be honest. I think I would let Kyle Walker-Peters arrive first. I would do his signing in a normal way. I wouldn't combine it. I think you have to give Orkun his moment. And I think he deserves that. He's sacrificing a lot for this. And I think he deserves that moment in the sunlight, in the spotlight, just for him and him alone. Also, I think for the arrival at the airport, to me, that is not the biggest deal. I think if they arrive at the same time, I think it could be fun for Kyle Walker-Peters in a way, because there will be like 10,000 or more fans at the airport, and that's a fun experience for him, as long as he doesn't, if it doesn't negatively impact him, of course, that 99% of the people will be there for the other guy. But when it comes to the signing ceremony, I think Kyle Walker-Peters, you just do like you did the other players. You just take some pictures in a suit and you sign the papers with Tel Adala there, and that's it. But Orkun, I think you have to make a big deal out of it. You have to make a statement. It's I think first and foremost, you're already kind of making a statement to Europe by signing him in the first place. I think it's going to turn a lot of heads, and is turning a lot of heads already, because he is a high-profile player that was on the radar of big clubs in the Premier League and in Europe. But if to that you go and add an unforgettable welcome in the stadium, if you saw the other day, Boca Juniors presented Paredes, and they had a full stadium for that. And I'm sure Galatasaray will have a full stadium for Osimhen. I think that those are the type of things that on social media will catch a lot of eyes, and that's a very positive thing. One thing I did wanted to add, though, I do think that one big difference between Quaresma and Orkun, despite the fact that I think Orkun is a bigger deal because he is not somebody who's coming off of a high-profile flop, and he is somebody that a lot of big clubs expected to sign before Beşiktaş could. I think in that regard it's bigger, but I do think what Quaresma did that Orkun probably won't, I think it brought a lot of extra eyes on Beşiktaş. I know a lot of people who started watching Beşiktaş, foreign people like from Poland and from Ecuador and from all over the world, who started watching Beşiktaş just because of Ricardo Quaresma.
Yeah,
I don't think Orkun will quite have that impact. Maybe you'll have some really big Orkun fans from his Feyenoord time who will start watching Beşiktaş and will start following Beşiktaş. I'm sure there will be people that will start following Beşiktaş, but I don't think to the extent that Quaresma did, because Quaresma is a cult player in world football to this day. So in that regard, I think Quaresma was still a little bit bigger just because of that. But in terms of what it means for Beşiktaş, I think it's at least on par. And in terms of fan excitement, I think it might be. I don't know if it's bigger. I think it's the same in that regard, really.
Yeah, but I think you make a fair point with regards to Quaresma being a cult figure and attracting for foreign fans. Well, at least I know Feyenoord fans are watching this with a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely have their attention. I already have some people that I owe a Beşiktaş t-shirt, or they want me to give them a Beşiktaş t-shirt with Orkun Kökçü on the back. So that's all fun to see.
Good news for the club, then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So that's all good news, but I don't think you're right. It's not in the extent of what a Quaresma created, right? So that's fair enough. Yeah.
Shall we let us know, by the way, in the comments, guys, which do you think was bigger? Do you think Quaresma is the bigger signing? Do you think Orkun is the bigger signing? Or do you think they're on par? Let us know in the live chat, or if you're watching on delay, let us know in the comments. Please just give us your thoughts on all this stuff. Adding comments when you watch on delay really helps us out a lot. But let's get into some live chat if you're okay with it, Ural. So
sure.
First and foremost, Nathan Davis, one of our members, of course, on YouTube and also in the WhatsApp group chat community. And if you look there in the center of your screen, you can see a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and it will give you access to our WhatsApp community. Consider joining, guys. It's very lively. We're chatting 24/7 about Beşiktaş. As you can imagine, the last couple of days have been absolutely crazy, but honestly, it's always a lively chat. It's a great community. Made lots of new friends in there over the last couple of months, and I'm sure you will too if you go and check it out. But let's get to the live chat here. Nathan Davies showing off some of those member exclusive emojis, Beşiktaş emblems in the chat, and then he does notice that we are wearing matching shirts. Ural, I have to say you look dashing today, sir.
That's thanks to a special person. But this is almost podcast business attire or corporate attire.
Exactly. Let's see. Osman has something to say as well. He said, Kaan, do you remember me? I asked you in the Tammy Abraham broadcast, when will Tammy Abraham be announced? I am here again and asking the same. Oh, well, you know what, Osman, usually how this goes is they announce, or journalists usually announce. Sometimes the club announces it too. I think in the case for Orkun, the club will announce the arrival time of Orkun in Istanbul. Once we know the arrival time of Orkun in Istanbul, usually the day after he will undergo a medical, and then the signing ceremony and the official communication of the signing, the comunicado oficial, like Real Madrid always do it, will follow that. But I think for Orkun it will be special. I think they will probably do a signing ceremony in the stadium. So I'm tentatively going to say Sunday, because I think tomorrow is going to be too hectic. He's probably going to arrive tomorrow, or I don't think he's going to arrive tonight, because I think they want it to happen at a time where the fans can all come to the stadium, to the airport, and then I think they will do the signing ceremony on Sunday, probably, maybe Monday. We'll see. What do you think?
Conveniently, the museum is closed, so the stadium tour is closed for this weekend. So.
Yeah. Today, I believe, and tomorrow. I don't know if it's also closed on Sunday.
No? Oh, I thought it was for the whole weekend.
I don't know. You might be right. I'm not 100% sure. Hey guys, sorry if I wasn't in the chat for a long time. I am always enjoying your podcasts. Keep it up. Thank you, Vigilante Turk. We really appreciate it. And of course, if you can't make it live, we really appreciate it as well if you just watch on delay. It's really thank you a lot for that. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the live chat, there's they are adding leaderboards. So that's pretty cool. Right now, Nathan Davis is the number 1 in the leaderboard, and the Vigilante Turk is number 3, I see, and Grey Wolf is number 2. Let's see what Grey Wolf has to say. He says, huge amount of pressure on him now. Hopefully he can handle it and won't be a flop. And then, of course, we had some technical difficulties. So, when it comes to the pressure, I've watched a lot of stuff on Orkun. I've watched a lot of interviews on Orkun, and obviously when he was 21 years old, we talked about this. He did feel the pressure of the captaincy. He did feel that weighing on him. And then, like I said, he went with, I believe, his brother, but I could be mistaken. Could have been his friend. I'm not sure. He went on the Hajj to Mecca, and after that, he came back, and he didn't, and the pressure fell off him. Orkun, in general, according to himself, he isn't somebody that gets nervous very easily. He isn't somebody who feels that sort of pressure easily. I think Orkun as well, if you see how easily he took that step from Feyenoord to Benfica, and I can tell you guys, Benfica fans are not happy about this. They aren't happy that Orkun is leaving, because you could think, okay, he's maybe seen as a troublemaker, had issues with 2 coaches now, so usually when something like that happens, especially at a club like Benfica, who are used to having really, really good footballers, you would think that they're like, we can get somebody else who's better and doesn't have this baggage. But Benfica fans aren't happy, guys. And that, I think, as well, is a positive sign for us. And then we have some more comments here, unfortunately, from the stream being frozen. Let's see. Grey Wolf says, I would like to know from the financial aspect, is the code just being kicked down the road and they are heading there bets with future revenue from European competition income and possibly from future projects, I think pro means there. Well, I mean, Ural, I think we discussed this in our financial episode a couple of weeks ago, right? I think that is what they're doing. They're kind of hedging their bets. It's a calculated risk. But I don't think it's necessarily putting all your money on black, if that makes sense.
No. It's not hedging in that sense, but they're kicking can down the road, but knowingly, of course.
Mhm.
So again, installments, breaking up the chunks to pieces, and knowing or betting, if you will, on higher income in the from next year onwards, which should help pay these high transfer fees. And additionally, of course, Adal is going to pursue other big projects, right? It's not going to end up with, it's not going to stay at the BEŞİKTAŞ project only. So I expect that later this year they will announce another real estate project, so to say, that sort of is going to be the way this is going to work. And yes, it's I think from his part, it's a calculated risk, it's a calculated bet. But let's say I don't want to. Yeah, let's say in the worst case scenario, then you have a huge debt accumulated in a couple of years. That is a possibility. Yes, if all things go bad, there's quite a big risk there. That's definitely the case.
But you also need to take into consideration, of course, that with the money generated from BEŞİKTAŞ, if we clear our debt, which is 100% the intention, the bank debt, like I've said this many times, but that means 50% more budget, which roughly equates to $50 million annually. And if you clear BEŞİKTAŞ right now of that debt, and we, instead of having a budget of 50 million, have a budget of $100 million, yeah, I think automatically these transfers become a lot less risky. So, people are thinking, okay, BEŞİKTAŞ is supposed to bring in 200 million euros, but 125 million of that is already designated to clear the club's debt. And then people look at that like, yeah, but okay, so 125 million is already instantly gone. We're not going to have 200 million to spend. But if you think about it, it's actually that 125 million is buying you so much more, because it's not just 50 million whenever they clear it, it's every following season 50 million extra. So that 125 million, essentially, if you think about it, in 10 years turns into 50 million, 500 million, if you think about it. And that is only if we stay at the current income. But if the club becomes more successful, if they start signing players like Orkun, start selling more and more merchandise, I mean, obviously the income of the club is going to increase. If we manage to qualify for the Champions League, the income is going to increase. If we go far in Europe, the income is going to increase. So it's all, yes, it's risk, no doubt. But really, if BEŞİKTAŞ is successful, and we all just have to hope and pray that it's going to be, but given the involvement of Emlak Konut, I think it's safe to say that it's a fairly safe bet that it's going to generate at least the 150 million that was on the lowest end of the projections. Yeah, then we are able to clear our debt, and when we clear our debt, our annual budget increases drastically. And I think in that regard, we can afford to sign a couple of players and spread their costs over the next 5 years. If you think about it, Orkun is going to cost us roughly 6 million euros in the transfer fee per year, plus then, of course, his wages. So maybe he's going to cost us 11, 12 million euros. But yeah, I think it's a lot of money, but it is doable. And this is this is something I like, Ural, because thanks to you, in large part, I feel like at least the people who watch our show, who watch the Black Eagles podcast, I don't know if you have a lot of Galatasaray friends, Ural, but I have some. I don't have a lot of them because I can't stand 95% of them. But I have a couple who I actually can stand and actually really like. And whenever I ask them, how are Galatasaray paying this? They can never answer me the question. Like the answer is usually, because we have Champions League football. And Celtic have Champions League football, right? Club Brugge have Champions League football. PSV have Champions League football. Benfica have Champions League football. You don't see these clubs spending 75 million on a player, right? You don't see these clubs signing multiple players on 10 plus million a year. And then in the case of Osimhen, 25 million, 16 guaranteed plus 10 in bonuses. Like, you don't see these clubs do that. Like, you cannot explain how Galatasaray are able to spend this money just by saying, oh, Champions League football. Does not explain it. You can't explain it by saying, oh, we sell a lot of shirts. Sorry, does not explain it. And Galatasaray fans can't explain this. Fenerbahce fans can't explain it other than, we have a billionaire president. Beşiktaş fans, at least the viewers of the Black Eagles podcast, they can actually explain how Beşiktaş are affording or hoping to afford Tammy Abraham, Orkun Kokcu, David Jurasek, all these players. They can explain it, and it's in large part thanks to you and thanks to how you have been able to explain in layman's terms, really, how all of this works. So I just wanted to give you props and thank you for that, Ural, because I think that is really a cool thing, that whenever we have an argument online with one of these colors, these yellows, we can actually explain to them why exactly Beşiktaş are able to do this while they can't. I think that makes that's a little, in my opinion, that's special. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's also fun because you better understand the mechanics of the club, of a club, to be fair.
Yeah.
And sort of demanding crazy transfers, etc. Then you can also put that in perspective and understanding what's needed and what the situation of the club is. So I think it's indeed nice to understand that what it takes, because you can also value then the actions of the board or president, or how they're really doing it, instead of not understanding and they just sort of make it happen. I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, indeed. But as you said, right? But I just want to add, it's a risk. It's a calculated risk, obviously. Otherwise, I don't think he would make this. He would make these decisions. But there's also no other option, right? You cannot. I don't think you could have succeeded with these bio type of transfers. So I also understand why he's doing it. Nobody expected it, I guess. But yeah, we'll have to see how this financially works out. But I'm also, if he does his work right, I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. But you never know, right? We could be a couple of years be crying again in crisis. There's always a chance with Beşiktaş.
All right, I am just seeing in our WhatsApp group that Beşiktaş tweeted something, so let's have a look at what that is. Let's see, it's taking a while to load. Beşiktaş have tweeted a teaser.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, the coin. The coin is back.
Okay.
You know, the coin in Tammy Abraham's announcement video.
They
just shared a short video of that coin getting flipped up. So
they should really start making these coins, sell them, and make them available for access to the stadium.
Yeah.
As instead of tickets, something like that.
That would
take this momentum, do something.
Yeah, they should definitely they should definitely monetize these coins. Like, maybe make it like a limited edition or something, commemorating the signing of Orkun or something like that. But big teaser, guys. That means that that announcement that you were asking about, Osman, is probably relatively close. At least the announcement in regards to the negotiations starting and the announcement of when he is arriving and stuff like that. Big news. Let's continue with some chats in the meantime as we await. Let's see. Nathan says we all talked about how the Club World Cup doesn't really matter, but it helped us get Orkun. Definitely true, Nathan. That is a good way of looking at things. I mean, obviously for us, it's not too interesting, the Club World Cup, because we're not active in it. It did end up giving us an opportunity at Orkun. And Kaan 2.0.
Are we now a fan by default of the
of the World Cup? Who knows what it will do for us in the future? Kaan 2.0 says, here we go. And Nathan says, I hope taking the 10 from Kenny to give to Orkun doesn't sour the club's relationship with Kenny. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how you feel about that, Ural, because I think it's always tricky and dangerous. If you remember when Quaresma signed, Ridvan Yilmaz, what was his name? Ridvan Şimşek had the number 7 jersey, and he handed him the number 7 jersey at the presentation in the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for that it was okay, because Ridvan Şimşek wasn't like a high profile or anything like that. He was a right back wearing number 7, no big deal. But Kenny came in and he got the number 10 jersey, and he was asked, we'll put extra pressure on his, and he said something along the lines of, no, I'm ready to wear that number and make, perform in it and all that kind of stuff. And I do know that Kenny prefers number 7. And if a certain someone is potentially moved on who currently wears number 7, I think Kenny will be perfectly fine with switching to number 7. But right now, as long as that certain someone is still at the club, number 7 isn't available. And then I do think it is a little bit of muddy waters and dangerous. How do you feel about that, Ural? Do you think it's okay to take away a player's number like that? I mean, Semi's number 9 was taken away and given to Tammy.
And if you remember, for Semi, it was done with a video and quite sort of not spectacle, but there was quite a thing. They made a thing out of it.
Mm-hmm.
To give him the 9, so to say, which then, in my opinion, makes it harder to take it away from him.
Mm.
But I think he's a great sport, and he understands and sort of gives it. But I feel bad about it, to be honest. And with Kenny, it's the same thing. It wasn't a big deal that it wasn't made a big deal by the club that he got the 10, but the fans. A lot of fans, I think, even in the podcast, were mentioned, don't give him the 10 straight away. Let him first earn it, because it's an important number. I don't know if you said it or Kartal said it, but and now you see it, right? And now you sort of have to dance around the hot potato. Can we get it from him or not, etc. Because Orkun wants it, right? So they should have never given it to him in the first place, not immediately. And so I think it's a bit. They need to manage this. Yeah. But I think it should be given to Orkun, because we already know that he's going to play starting 11 every game.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about making him captain already. So I mean, I also think Kenny will understand. And again, like I said, I think if Kenny is given the number 7 jersey after, I think he really won't care. But it's still touchy, and I think you need to handle it correctly and be very clear and respectful to Kenny. And I think as long as you handle it properly and with grace, I think it will be okay. But it is tricky. All right.
Yeah.
Mustafa Tekin asks us if we talked about Kyle Walker-Peters yet. Well, Mustafa, I have to admit, right now it's really been Orkun Kokcu for 90%. We'll get a little bit more into Kyle Walker-Peters in a little bit after we finish these comments. We are talking mainly about Orkun. So stay tuned for our thoughts on Kyle Walker-Peters. Iberg leaving behind some black and white hearts. Thank you, Iberg, for your support. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet.
Definitely.
Grey Wolf says, whether it's a captain or not, we need that one gritty, fierce player that inspires, sparks, and or puts a fire in the team. The team has been lacking this for years. Yeah, couldn't agree more with that Grey Wolf. I think it's something we've been talking about in the podcast for a while, that we really, really miss leaders. And I think one of the good things about Orkun is he's a leader, and he's also, I'm not gonna say he's a cunt in a positive way, but I think he's kind of a cunt. But in a good way, you know, like he's somebody that's, like you say, is fearful, and he will lead by example, inspire his teammates. If you remember, you'll remember this, Ural. He had this little thing with Dusan Tadic at a certain point, right? And I think that is important, that you have a player who is willing to do that, and willing to go in the front line in the battle, and just doesn't waver from that. And I think Orkun is somebody who has that temperament, that fieriness, and he has leadership capabilities in combination with that. So I think really, Orkun, I think, hits a lot of important points for us. One, he's a creative player, something we have been lacking. We have been lacking creativity, especially from the central midfield. Two, he is a set piece expert. His corners, especially his left-sided corners, are lethal. He has a plethora of assists from corners, at least at Feyenoord. I didn't see all his assists at Benfica, but I actually watched all his goals and assists the other day with his time in Feyenoord, and I think at least from the 20-odd assists he had, like 6 or 7 came from corners. So that is something we have very much lacked. He is, like we said, a leader. He is somebody that's going to, he's fiery. He's all that. So I think that's 4 important things that we've been talking about in recent years that we've been lacking in the team, and I think he's checking all those boxes. And I'm a big fan of Jetson, and everyone here who watches this knows that. But I think that if we are going to replace Jetson, I think Orkun is the perfect player to do it with, because he hits so many boxes. Set piece specialist, leader, creative. Yeah.
I think Orkun has more already has more assists in the 2 seasons. So he has a higher average in the 2 seasons at Benfica.
Yes.
It's gonna.
Yeah, he had first season he had 7 goals, 10 assists. Second season he has 12 goals, 10 assists. So both seasons he hit double digits on assist. So I mean, you're gonna get a lot more creativity, and it's not just assists; it's also pre-assists and stuff like that. It's also just good corners. Not every corner is a direct assist. Sometimes you have a corner to the far post that gets headed back, and then somebody else slots it in. He brings a lot of things that Beşiktaş have been sorely lacking in recent years. So I think Orkun. Sorry. I think.
Sorry to cut you off.
No. I just think he's almost a perfect signing because of that. Because he just addresses so many issues the team has, right, or shortcomings the team has.
Yeah, we lacked huge on that part. But since you brought it up with Jetson. And you already said, okay, I don't see 2-8s happening. But what about keeping Jetson and sort of playing together with Orkun? Because that was also one of the scenarios that was talked about or debated on by fans. How do you feel that? Because I think you're confident that we will that Jetson will be transferred. But what if he's not transferred? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think he will be. But I think if he isn't, then you need to figure out how to work that out. I personally think Jetson could play as a number 6. I think he has a lot of qualities to be a good number 6. I think he could be a Kante type 6, somebody who covers every inch of grass and steals the ball. And I think you could, right now, Jetson has more of an advanced role. He makes a lot of runs. And he spends a lot of time on the ball. But if you give him certain instructions. For example, okay, Jetson, from now on, you're not going to run with the ball at your feet anymore. You're just going to pass. As soon as you get it, you pass it to Orkun. And you make that his job, essentially. And then other than that, you just make him like the vacuum cleaner and just have him press because he's really good at pressing. He's really good at ball recovery. And he's good defending. He's really good at winning the ball back. I think because one of the things we recently had an argument or discussion, me and Kartal, about Jetson, that he has one of the highest possession losses in the league. And I argued, okay, that's true, but you also need to take into consideration he spends a lot of time on the ball. You're comparing him to players like, for example, Lucas Torreira and other players who play in that role. And those players spend very little time on the ball. They are constantly passing that ball quickly, whereas Jetson is going on a lot of runs and losing the ball in those situations. But if you take that away, I think Jetson can become a really decent anchor because he's very combative. I think he can do it. I'm not saying that that's ideal. I think somebody who is even more natural at that role, and I personally would prefer a very tall and strong, physically very imposing, an athletic number 6. But I think Jetson could pull it off if he stays. And I think if he does stay, that should be the role he plays in. And I think his function within the team will change drastically. Doesn't mean he can never come up during counterattacks anymore and stuff like that. Of course, he can still do that. But then he would have to transition into a holding midfielder role rather than the box-to-box he is right now.
Yeah, and definitely not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So don't try what they did with Orkun in his first season.
Yeah, no.
Let him play the 8 and not try to make him something else.
Exactly. Orkun,
I would say.
Orkun is going to be the star of the team alongside Rafa, so you have to play to his strengths. And I understand in the past, okay, it's also important that as a player, and this is something Orkun had to learn as well at Feyenoord and also at Benfica, that you need to play in function of the team, and that is 100% true. I mean, it's not because you play around, you play in or it's not because you cater to Rafa's strengths or you cater to Orkun's strengths that they no longer have to play in function of the team. Of course, they still have to play in function of the team, but I think it is very important when you have players of an exceptional talent level like Orkun, like Rafa, then you need to 100% as much as possible play to their strengths. And other players, the lesser players, and I'm, again, huge fan of Jetson. I think calling him a lesser player is doing him a disservice. But compared to Orkun, compared to Rafa, I think that is fair. And then I think if Jetson would happen to stay, then he needs to start becoming somebody who plays in service of those two guys, 100% in service of those two guys. And right now, I think because of the lack of quality we had this past season and seasons, I think Jetson was still very much somebody who was like almost an offensive fulcrum for us, which is weird because he doesn't really have those qualities. But I think it's just because we had a lack of those qualities in other players. So we just used Jetson because he is good at making runs. He is good with the ball at his feet. So we did use that in Jetson. But I do think now that we're going to have better players and who are superior at those things, I think it's time for Jetson to then take a step back, be less involved in that aspect of the game and become more and more focused on the defensive part of the game. Sorry to be so long-winded, by the way.
No, but I think it's a good explanation. A lot of people love Jetson, of course, but also need to see his shortcomings, right? Because I think you said it last time. Otherwise, he would be most probably would have played at the top 5 leagues in Europe, right? Yeah. If he had that shortcoming, if he didn't have that shortcoming. So yeah. I think it's a fair assessment.
I think if Jetson if Jetson could average like 10 goals, 10 assists per season, I think he would be playing for Real Madrid or something. Exactly. It's just because Jetson doesn't have that. One of the things that Jetson has, he loses the overview when he starts running with the ball at his feet, he tends to lose track of his teammates. I think it all goes a little bit too quick for him, maybe. And if he had that, if he would keep his overview and then was able to play that killer ball and make the right decision, he would be world class, because he is so good at all the other things. He is so strong in the duels. He is so strong in the ball recovery. He is so strong with the ball at his feet. It's really tough to dispossess him, despite the fact that he has actually high dispossession stats. But that is, again, because, like I said, because of how much time he spends on the ball. All right, let's get to another comment here from Nathan. It seems like the club threw water on Andreas Schlederup rumors, but it would be interesting if they overpaid for him in a little bit to keep Feyenoord's hands off the Orkun profit. But there is no profit, so yeah. I mean,
it doesn't seem to be.
No.
So that's because everybody expected it. But yeah, it's a very good and tight deal in that sense.
Yeah, Benfica are only losing 1.2 million, and that is money they would have always lost anyway, because they have to pay that because Feyenoord are the team that raised him, so to speak. So they have to pay him a compensation for that. It's the same way if, like, for example, if Demir Ege, if he would have stayed at Rio Ave and Rio Ave would have sold him, we still would have gotten, on top of the percentage we got, we would get an additional educational fee, so to speak. But that is, I think Andreas Schlederup, that is not going to happen. I think. Also, I don't know the player that well, but I've seen some people liken him to Rasica, and to me that gives me shivers. So no, I hope it doesn't. I don't know the player well enough, so I can't judge. But it makes me afraid if I read stuff like that. All right. Grey Wolf says, I would prefer if the friendlies be against stronger teams. I think that prepares the team better, and the coaches truly see how good the players are against a quality team. Oh, I disagree with that, Grey Wolf. I personally am a big fan of how Belgian clubs do it, and they usually, the first two friendlies in their schedule, they play against really, really low-level teams, like 4th, 5th, 6th division teams, and they trash them 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, 10, 11-0, and these really serve as confidence boosters for a lot of players, but also just these early friendlies are mainly just about match fitness. They aren't necessarily about playing against strong teams and all that kind of stuff. It's just about getting minutes, and that's something also Ole talked about after the game right now. This game wasn't about winning or losing. It was about getting everyone 45 minutes in their legs. And especially for the early friendlies, I think that is important. I think when you play more friendlies, and if you aren't playing European qualifiers, then definitely the last couple of friendlies you play. I think we're going to play... How many are we going to play, Ural? Do you know? Like 4, 5, 6 friendlies? I think only 4, probably, because our official game...
Aren't there 2 left?
I think
before Shakhtar?
I thought there were 3 left, but maybe it's 2. But like,
okay.
So yeah, I have to think we play Shakhtar on the 24th. So that is coming really quickly already. So we only have so many friendlies, and these friendlies truly serve as warming ups. I think if you aren't playing qualifiers as early as we are, and you, instead of playing, let's call it 4 friendlies, you play like 7 or 8, then definitely the last 2 or 3 could be against much better opposition, so that you can put your players to the test and get them ready for the season. But honestly, and you're not gonna like this, but these early qualifiers kind of serve as that now. There's just not enough time, and really the first couple of friendlies, stacking those with really strong teams doesn't have a benefit, because the only reason you want to play these matches is for fitness, and you don't want the players to overextend themselves in the first couple of games and maybe pick up injuries. So I personally don't agree with that. I don't know how you feel about it, Ural, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe to Grey Wolf's point, if you saw the physicality, of course, of which our coach really well interfered in, I think that's a point of concern. But usually these teams should also not be that sort of physical. But that is, of course, a worry.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. I don't think you should. It's not necessary, especially the first 2 games, you shouldn't have to start against very sort of tougher teams or same level teams. I think it's fine to even play against amateurs, but obviously they need to be careful. Understanding it's just a training game, a friendly game. Because yesterday, there were some moments that everybody felt like that's a little bit too much from the from the counterpart. But I think you're right. There are 3 games left, so we play on 13th. Admira
Wacker.
Yeah. And then 16th is Wolfsberger AC, and on the 17th is FC Petrosalka. Yeah. So you're right. It's 3 games.
Yeah. Breaking news, by the way, Ural Orkun Kokcu tomorrow Serdal Adalı will go in the morning at 10 with a private jet to pick up Orkun in the Netherlands. Now,
he's picking him up. Okay.
Yeah, so he's in the Netherlands right now. So I'm just checking this. So tomorrow at 10, he leaves Istanbul to pick up Orkun with a private jet. And, so I think the flight takes around 2.5 hours, and then probably, some time in the Netherlands, and then go back. So it'll probably be in the evening that he arrives, around, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening.
Probably, yeah. But why is he picking him up? Because I thought he said, I'm not the one who's going to go in a private jet and sort of take pictures.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been stronger to just make this deal and just wait for him in Istanbul. Just let him come.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it would have been a stronger move, but okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there, man. I agree. I think that is... I understand it as well, because this is a very, very special transfer, and I do think Serdal Adalı deserves, because he made this happen. Let's be honest, Serdal Adalı made this happen personally. He went to Lisbon personally, conducted the negotiations together with Can Kaymakoglu, I believe, and maybe Edward Graaf was part of it as well. I'm not sure, but Adalı was definitely there in person and conducted these negotiations. So I understand it. I think. I do agree with you. I think it would have been a very strong statement to say, okay, I'm going to let Edward Graaf pick him up, and I'll just I'll wait at the airport for him. But on the other hand, I think for Orkun personally, it's also kind of nice that the president in person is coming to pick you up. I think for Orkun especially, that means something,
Yeah. But I wouldn't have went, to be honest, in this case, in this scenario. But it's okay. It's up to him, of course, and he wants to be. Also in the picture for it, which is well deserved, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said, he made it happen. So let's see. But I'm excited nonetheless, right? It's going to be very curious. It's going to be very nice.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we have here. Grey Wolf also said the next thing we see, Kaan is live in Turkey for the signing. Yeah, maybe I can buy a GoPro and be live in the stadium. The Black Eagles podcast live from the stadium. Maybe we'll do that one day, but not this day, unfortunately. It's just I have too much stuff, man. Like we just bought a new robot vacuum cleaner, and like there's too much stuff to sort. Once my house is completely sorted out and like my money is back, like full disposable income, I do think I'll be doing stuff like that from time to time. But for now, it's like other priorities. Unfortunately, I would. Part of me really would love to go there, but then it's a difficult one. But let us know in the comments or in the live chat if you are going. Let's see, Nathan again. He really is earning that number 1 in the leaderboards today. Do private planes arrive at the main Istanbul airport or a more minor one? Actually, the funny thing is, Nathan, the private airplanes actually arrive at the Atatürk airport, which is much better and much easily accessible than the Sahib and Gökçek. That's right, Ural, right? Sahib and Gökçek, I think.
Yeah, that's on the Asian side, and then you have the Istanbul airport, which is basically the replacement of Atatürk.
So like some years ago, Erdogan, for some reason, really pushed to replace the Atatürk airport to no longer be the main airport of Istanbul, but like the new one, Sahib and Gökçek or whatever the fuck it's called.
No, that's on the Asian side.
Oh, okay. Well, regardless.
So the new one is on the European side, it's in the north.
But it's much harder to access, right? It's like further out the city, I think.
Yeah, it's further out.
Yeah, it takes a long time, and actually fans aren't able to get. I mean, it's. I think not a lot of fans are able to go there, and like at the Atatürk airport, that's where the private jets land. Like 30,000 people could go there. You know, in theory.
Yeah, because it's in this, it's in the city, right? So it's close. It's much closer by for the fans. Of course, much in that sense accessible. But the airport, so for commercial flights, it was just not big enough anymore. Yeah. So that's why they decided to build a bigger airport, and this is way out of the city. So that's why they use this one for the private. But
flights. Is the arrival lobby or the exit or something also not just more accommodating to large groups of people than the other airports?
Yeah, because it's not as busy anymore. Because if you go, let's say if you go to the normal airport, you also see those pickups, but then you have sort of regular traffic, people coming in and out. But at the Atatürk airport, it's much quieter, so you can have these special events without bothering the regular flights, so to say. People coming in and out. So that's why it's much more convenient. Yeah. Apart from being closer by, of course.
So I hope it answers your question, Nathan, about the airport. Don't worry about that. The private jet will arrive at the Atatürk airport, and I expect an insane crowd to be there. It was already a relatively big crowd for Tammy Abraham, but I think this is going to be Quaresma levels of people there. Especially if they announce it nicely in advance, and it's on a Saturday, so you would imagine. I imagine somewhere between 10 and 30,000 people.
It's perfect time.
Yeah, exactly. Nathan also says, I agree that our B team looked better yesterday, but they were also playing against St. Pölten. You didn't watch the game, did you? Well, because I think you went to a meeting, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was unable to watch the game, and I haven't rewatched it, to be honest. And well, I'm not that sort of curious or into these preseason friendlies, so I haven't bothered, to be honest.
Well, I watched both halves. I thought actually the first half we were decent. We looked very lively, very eager to attack. But of course, again, it was only a second division Austrian side, so they were weaker. But we weren't able to score. We were dangerous, but we weren't able to score. And in the second half, we scored 2 goals really quickly. So I think that's the main thing that really separated us. I didn't really feel like we were that much better in the second half. I think Rafa was good in the first half. Jurasek was good in the first half. Kenny Arroyo was good in the first half. I wasn't impressed with Amir. I thought he kind of slowed things down a little bit. Second half, Tayfur with a great assist. Semih scored, but he scored. But then I feel like he hasn't changed much yet. He's still not really pressing and running, and I wasn't super hyped about that. I didn't think Mustafa was particularly good in the first half. I also think that plays a part. So Tayfur was good second half. Demirege was good. Kartal and Yilmaz was good. Definitely, I think Demirege and Kartal and Yilmaz, if you see those two guys, I think there's no argument to be made for keeping Amir. I think Amir needs to go. There's no point in keeping him when you have Kartal. And then for Demirege, you can still discuss, okay, do we want to keep him? Do we want to sell him? It depends, I think. For Demirege, I feel like it kind of depends on how much is he going to play this season. How much is Ole planning on playing him this season? If he's going to play a lot, then you keep him. Otherwise, I really think you need to sell him. Kartal is a different story. I think that's the perfect squad depth player, rotational player. He's good enough, and he's an academy player. He's homegrown, and he's already 24 years old. You're not really wasting him. Whereas with Demirege, I feel if you're not going to play him a significant amount of time, you're kind of wasting him, and it would be a shame, and you're much better off selling him, I think. But they both look good.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's interesting, but let's see how the other games will be, right?
Yeah. Atiljan Malak also commenting right now. We announced Orkun on Twitter. Official announcement. I mean, I guess Atiljan, you mean like the coin flip, right? It's not really an announcement, is it? Or did I miss something? It's a tease for sure, and it's definitely about Orkun. So I think it's safe to say Orkun is 100% done. But I'm just gonna check. Oh no, you're right. We did actually, as of 5 minutes ago. But I don't think this comment was from 5 minutes ago. But as of 5 minutes ago, we sent out a comunicado oficial. Let's see.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm just.
Congratulations. Oh, that's really good
Yeah,
news.
exactly. So let's see. Orkun Kökçü'den transferi için görüşmelere başladı. So official announcement for the negotiations with Benfica over Orkun. No financial details disclosed, of course. That will come at a later time. But the official announcement for Orkun already announced as of 5 minutes ago. So congratulations, everyone. Orkun Kokcu is officially a Beşiktaş player. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Going into this summer.
Two weeks ago, or even 10 days ago, who would have thought this? Who would have believed
Crazy.
it? In our last episode, Ural, I think I talked about it with Sinan with Sinan and with Kartal, and I said somebody in I don't remember if it was the WhatsApp group or if it was the live chat, but somebody asked how much chance do you give this from happening, and I said, okay, I'm gonna give this 5%, and normally I would give it 0 to 1%, but I'm gonna give it 5% just because of how big of a Beşiktaşlı he is, and that is the only reason I am giving this even. I'm spending headspace on it because I gave it 5%, and within 10 days, we actually managed to sign him, and
Amazing.
maybe it's recency bias right now. I think this is probably the biggest signing in the history of the club, and again, I think Quaresma, and I think it's very close between those two. And then it maybe is about the context of it, right? Like Quaresma was 26, almost 27 when we signed him. Orkun is 24, almost 25 when we're about to sign him. Of course, there have been bigger names that have played for Beşiktaş, like Mario Gomez, like Pepe. Those are bigger names than both Quaresma and Orkun. But you have to look at it in the context of these guys are coming in the prime of their careers. Orkun you could argue, not even in his prime yet. He is yet to come into it, you could argue. So in that regard, I think those are for me the two biggest signings in the history of the club. And it's who would have thought it 10 days ago, like you said, Ural. It's incredible. Let's see what Nasser has to say. Our good friend Nasser says the biggest plus for me was the variety in set piece routines. I've never seen us take short corners like that before, so it's clear they've been putting in the work on the training ground. Nasser, I think that is probably because you started watching and started following, and you have become a really good Beşiktaş fan in a short amount of time. But you started watching once Ole came in, and I can tell you, under Gio, we did nothing but take short corners. It was frustrating. We only took corners short. There's episodes, if you go back to last season, where I'm like, I just want us to take a normal corner. I think short corners are great if there's a proper idea behind them, and if it comes off, and if it's dangerous, I'm fine with it. But if you're just taking them short for the sake of taking them short, no thanks. But I agree, there was some variation in the set pieces. We scored on a corner. That's great to see. We had some dangerous corners, so definitely some progress in that regard. Grey Wolf says, I disagree with the friendlies. You can still get match fit with better quality teams. This year it's short, but in general you can do everything you mentioned with better quality teams. I feel it better. I disagree, but that's fine. I mean, like I said, I think if you have a larger schedule of friendlies, I think backloading them with some strong opponents makes sense. But I definitely think, especially in the beginning, you front load it with easy opposition. I think that's just the best way to go. There's arguments for the other part. I was speaking to Evran the other day, and Evran is a coach. He's working in the third division of Romanian football, and he is very on point with this kind of stuff. And there's people who say, okay, you have to front load with tougher opponents. And I'm not going to argue against that. I'm sure that there's benefits to that. Personally, I just prefer you front load with weaker opponents. And I would go a lot weaker than we went yesterday. Like I said, I would go 5th, 6th division, so you can just walk over them and trash them completely. Really, those first 1 or 2 friendlies are just about, in my opinion, just about getting some minutes into the players. All right, Grey Wolf says prepares the team and use it as a scouting mission as well. Yeah, okay, maybe. Let's see. Oh, that seems to be it for the comments. Not a lot of comments.
Yeah, we
today.
skipped.
Or
We skipped. No, we skipped. Yeah.
Did I skip a lot?
I think because you had the last comment. Actually, the comment was when we talked about the airport.
Yeah.
And then from that onwards, you've skipped it.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I did indeed skip some comments. You're right. Yeah, I think something went wrong there. Oh yeah. There's a lot of. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I skipped a lot of comments. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see, B team. We just posted on social media. Let's see. Here's another from Trevor Siegeman or Stegeman. Oh, Trevor. Hello, Trevor. Thank you very much for joining us, mate. Don't forget to give us a like and a comment and a subscribe and hit that notification bell. So Trevor says, with Solskjaer at the helm, I'm curious to see if Beşiktaş will adapt a more dynamic counter-attacking style similar to what we saw in his best moments at United. Do you mind if I answer that, Ural, or do you want to...
Yeah, go ahead. No,
well, you know what? One of the things I heard, thanks to our friend Nasser as well, who, of course, gave us an extended insight on Ole's time at United. I think one of the things with what Ole really tried to do at United was play to the strength of his players. And I think he knew that he didn't have the material necessarily to play dominating possession-based football all the time. And I feel like I think he played to the strengths of his squad and to his players. And that's why he played a more transitional style of football, which of course led to them eliminating Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League and led to them beating Manchester City away and Liverpool away and a lot of big wins like that because of that tactical adaptability. I do think, though, that with the team that is currently being built, I think the team that we're building is a lot more targeted at possession and at dominating and being the team that's on the front foot and not necessarily reacting to the opponent. Of course, in Europe, we could definitely see a more transitional style against stronger teams, but I think that what Ole is trying to build and with the material he is being provided right now in the transfer window, I do expect a different type of football than that and a more, like I said, possession-based, dominant style of football. So I don't think that's what's happening. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately because I think that's what a lot of Beşiktaş fans want to see and have been wanting to see for a long time. I don't know if you agree with that,
Exactly.
Ural?
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, he's a bit further in his career, of course. He had a break, and now he has the opportunity to build it up from zero, basically, right? So this is a first serious transfer window, so this should be more befitting his vision. So I think, so I agree.
Yeah.
This is going to be different in that sense.
Yeah, and again, we spoke to Emil Sande, a Norwegian journalist, about Ole's time at Molde, for example, and also his assistant Erling Moe's time at Molde. And at Molde, they definitely played a more possession-based football brand, attacking style of football, and less a counter-attacking style of football. So I think Ole is a coach who is very adaptable and is able to play to the strengths of his players. And I think in an ideal world, Beşiktaş is a team that dominates possession, especially in the Turkish Super League. And one of the things that Kartal has argued many times is that with, for example, Jetson as the number 8, because Jetson is a good player in transition football, in transition moments, he's really effective, but he isn't so effective against low block teams. And I think it's not just Jetson, it's also players like Rasica. It's other players that we have on the wings where we struggle a lot against low block teams. And I think right now what they're trying to do is build a team that is able to dismantle those types of sides and dominate those types of sides. So I do think that there's a big shift in that regard with the transfer policy right now. So I expect Beşiktaş to play a very different brand of football this coming season. Grey Wolf says we also need a player of players that can shoot from distance with accuracy and on target. Oh, well, I don't know if you're talking about Orkun, but that is another thing Orkun has. Orkun scores a lot of long-range shots. He is a very prolific shooter from distance. So that is another thing that we were arguably missing that we have now added to the squad. But I do have to say, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain has a fair amount of long-range goals in his career. Amir has a fair amount of long-range goals in his career. I don't necessarily think we didn't have that. I think we just stayed away from it, from shooting from distance. And I do hope that Ole is going to give Orkun the freedom to try his luck on occasion, because he has a really, really good shot from distance. Don't know if you can add to that, Ural, if you remember any of his goals in the Eredivisie from distance that you can remember.
Yeah, I can't. To be honest, I can't recall one specific, but we were lacking this. Okay, you say maybe Oxlade that they had a shot, so that might be true, but it was just not enough each game. So I can't wait for it. I would love to see more distance shots, which are, as Grey Wolf, should be on target. So that would be a breath of fresh air, to be honest, to see that coming season.
Yeah.
So yeah.
By the way, Ural, another, I don't know if I can call it a breaking news, because it's a report from Ertan Süzgün.
Right.
But one of the things he says is after the transfers of Orkun Kokcu and Kyle Walker-Peters, a left winger will also be announced in the coming days, essentially, or starting Monday or in the weekend or something. Wait, let me see how did he phrase it. Orkun Kokcu Walker-Peters ve sol kanat transferlerine ardından pazartesinden itibaren gidecek oyuncular için hareketlilik olacak. So pazartesi, was it right? Pazartesi. That's
Pazartesi.
Yeah, is that Sunday or that's Sunday, right?
It's Monday.
Oh, it's Monday. Okay, sorry. I am not very good with Turkish days. So yeah, left winger could be around the corner as well. So,
but who?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Tell us who. Who do you think?
Yeah.
Because is this the Premier League? Sort of. They were hinting somebody from the Premier League. Or is this Kerem?
No, I don't think it's gonna be Kerem. I think Kerem is probably too expensive. I think Benfica want around 20 million for him. I don't think that.
But what about a loan? Do you think we can loan him, right?
We could loan him, but I think Benfica, like, if you look at it, like, right, he's about to turn 27. He had a really good season at Benfica. I think he scored about 18 goals, gave like 10 assists or something like that. He had a really good season. Reportedly, he's unhappy, hasn't been able to settle in Portugal. I also think that the fact that Orkun is leaving is adding to that, because they were apparently very close. So, I think it's a difficult one, because he is at that point in his career where you can probably now sell him to a European league, but does he want to go to another European league? Because if he cannot settle in Portugal, it's very questionable whether or not he can settle in any other European country, because Portugal, I think, is in a way similar to Turkey, like Italy is similar to Turkey, right? Like, I think the culture in, for example, Germany or France or England is much different compared to Turkey than Portugal is different. So really the market for Kerem is probably Turkey, and honestly, guys, I think he's going to Fener.
But would you want him? Let's say he's available, so sort of we can make it happen. Would you want him?
Would you want him? I want to hear your opinion first.
Well, I've thought about it, but I would say yes.
Yeah.
He's a Dutch player, so that helps with the foreigner rule. I think he's very productive. I think he can be productive, even more productive at Beşiktaş. The only hesitation I have is his. I think they say he whines a lot,
Yeah.
or is a bit of a difficult person. That's the little bit the difficulty I have with him. But I think with Solskjaer, with the team, with Orkun there as well, I don't know. It could click, and then you don't have that problem.
Yeah.
So I'm not against him to. I wouldn't be against, to be honest. I think it would be a nice addition. And it also helps with freeing up a foreigner space so that you can get another foreigner in. Also for the future, right? So yeah.
Well, I don't let me lead by I don't really like him. I don't like his character necessarily because well, there's things I like about him. For example, I really respect the fact that he went to, I believe, was it the 4th division? I think he went to the 4th division.
Yeah, something like that.
And he fought his way up to the Super League in just a couple of seasons. Okay, he was under contract with Başakşehir, loaned out, but I think he clawed his way to the top. I really respect that hustle. I really think that shows that he is very dedicated, that he is very hardworking, that he has the right mentality, that he's a professional. So I'm complimenting his mentality here. But one of the things I really don't like about him is that he is somebody that is always diving. I don't like that. I don't like players who dive.
But that's an obligation that was because of Galatasaray.
Yeah, maybe. And I also, one of the things I don't like about him as well is that I thought he was very selfish. I think he's one of the most selfish players I've ever seen. And I understand. I think it's the selfishness in him. I think that is something that comes from his time in the lower leagues. Because he knew I have to be selfish because I need to show myself. I need to score as many goals as possible. I need to give as many assists as possible. I need to be as productive as possible. So I am going to be I'm going to be selfish for myself. And interesting, I recently watched an interview with Orkun and he said something similar of like in the under 19s when he was made certain promises and they weren't kept. He decided at that point, okay, I'm just going to play for myself now. And he started scoring more goals because he started playing more selfishly. So I understand as a player when you're trying to get noticed and you're trying to fight your way up to the top that you play very selfish and that you act very selfishly. I understand that. But I think that is something he should have let go a little bit when he was at Galatasaray. And I still feel like I feel like he bought his own hype, the whole Harry Potter thing and all that kind of stuff. I feel like he got a little bit of a big head. And I don't really like that. It also, of course, adds to the fact he's a Galatasaray player. So, obviously I'm not going to like that from a Galatasaray player. Would I want him to play for Beşiktaş? I would not be against it. I'll put it that way. And very interestingly, Haber Kartal did a poll and had about 65,000 votes on this poll. And it was really split down the middle. I think 50.2% said yes to getting Kerem, and 49.8% said no. I actually said yes, by the way. So I'm certainly not Kerem's biggest fan. I have been very critical of Kerem in the past. At the same time, I have also always said that I think Galatasaray fans were far too harsh on Kerem. I don't think they appreciated what they had in him. It was very similar to Burak Yilmaz, because with Burak they were always hating on him because he missed a lot of chances. And it's the same with Kerem. And a certain partition of our fans do the same with Rafa. I know Rafa is pretty universally loved, but there's a lot of people who swear at Rafa when he misses a chance. And I think, I've said this on the podcast before, okay, you can be angry that he misses those chances, but if you don't have Rafa, you don't get those chances because we don't have other players with that instinct to make those types of runs and to find those pockets of space. I think that is a talent that Burak also kind of had. He was offside a lot, but he was constantly making runs. I don't necessarily think Burak was great at making runs, but he did it so often. The volume of runs he did was just so high that he had a lot of good runs because of it. I think Rafa is a lot more instinctive and he makes a lot more better runs. And I think Kerem is closer to Rafa than he is to Burak. I think he is very good at knowing exactly when to make a run. And he is very good at playing in between the lines and playing in those pockets of space and finding those pockets. And because of that, he's really good at getting into goal-scoring positions. He isn't the best finisher, and he misses a lot of chances. But I think you don't create those chances if you don't have a player who knows how to, create those opportunities. And with a player like Orkun, and hopefully a good creative winger in the future as well, and we still have João Mario too in the squad, I think you have players that can pick off runs like Rafa's and like Kerem. So in that regard, I definitely wouldn't be against Kerem. It's not my ideal signing. I would much rather see a more creative winger being the priority. I think if we can get another Gezal, another Quaresma type of winger, and then Orkun in midfield, then we have so much creativity. We have Tammy, we have Rafa, we have Kenny Arroyo. Arroyo can be both, I think, more of a goal-scoring winger and also more of a creative winger. But what we've seen so far from Kenny, I kind of feel like he's more of a goal-minded winger. So I think that would fit the puzzle better than Kerem right now. I don't know what you think about the ideal profile of the winger we should get.
Yeah, well, I don't. So we're lacking wingers, right? So that's left or right, or left and right.
Yeah.
So my first point is I just want to have wingers, left and right. So even regardless of Kenny, I think we should get two, because I don't want to see Rasica coming season. So I'm happy with any changes there.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that Kerem is, of course, the absolute dream profile at the moment for this team. So from that perspective, I'm not against. Well, I would want to see him with Beşiktaş. Obviously, if they have other choices which have with a better profile, sure, right. Then let's go after those. Thing is, we don't have many left winger Turkish players to work with this foreign rule. So he's one of the best, or one of the few options, Turkish options that you have to bring in. Same on the right side with Irfan Can. There are not many other options, I think.
But Kerem will be pretty expensive.
That's true.
Now Irfan Can, let's talk about that as well, because you brought him up. Irfan Can, not happy at Fenerbahce, not really in Mourinho's pants, did just extend. Like, why do you extend? I don't understand that. He could have been a free agent. He could have signed for Galatasaray. He could have signed for Beşiktaş. Could have signed for Trabzonspor. He could have gone abroad. I don't know why. I don't understand why he extended. So in my opinion, like, just because of that, like, no. But I know a lot of Beşiktaş fans are keen on him. But really, do you want to be paying a transfer fee right now? That's not fair.
No, that's the thing.
And
that's a little bit the annoying thing about this.
And I think he's 30 already, or he's about to turn 30 years old.
20.
He might be 29 still, I'm not sure, but I think he's from 95, so...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm going to look it up while you speak.
Yeah, so the reason why, again, it's interesting because he's a Turkish player. That means even if you would get Kerem and Irfan Can, then you have more spaces open for players. So that's an interesting idea. And also for squad depth, I think even if you get a foreign winger on top of that, then he's also both of candidates was very luxury to have them as squad depth, I think. But that would bring up the quality of the team, I think, to the next phase or the next stage, right? So because obviously we now have to ensure that we have the right first 11, and then we can work on squad depth. But with that in mind, I think he would be a really good transfer.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you to now go out and pay. I don't know what this transfer fee will be.
Yeah.
If it's doable,
If it's-
like cheap,
Yeah.
then it's fine. Otherwise, I'm not in favor.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of
You
it.
need to keep in mind, I think they paid 10 million for him. So like, if you can get him for 2 or 3 million, I would definitely say okay. But I don't think Fenerbahce are going to let us have him, because you need to also think, like, I mean, I think we can all agree we're making good moves. We are putting together a good team. Like, Fenerbahce sees that too. I think if we were in the situation of last season still, like where you're like, they're gonna be like 40 points behind probably. And I'm not saying we're not gonna be. Knock on wood, we're not. But but if we were still like we weren't really a threat, then they might say, let's let them have it. But I think first and foremost, Fenerbahce extended him not to let anyone else have him. I think they extended him not with the intention of we want to keep him, more with the intention of we don't want any of our rivals to have him. And yeah, I think it's almost like they're trying to monopolize the Turkish talent. And yeah, I don't think it will be easy to get him. I think if you want him, you'll probably have to pay a ridiculous fee. And with ridiculous, I mean, obviously he's turning 30 in 4 days, by the way. So, I mean, 6-7 million, I think, given the context, is a ridiculous fee. I think if you can get him...
No, I agree. Yeah. If it's 6-7, then I'm against it because it's too much.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you can get him for 2.5 to 3 million, then yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But also keep in mind, Irfan Can has a good wage. He makes 2.5 million a year or something like that at Fener. So it's like... my friend Salih said earlier, I think Irfan Can would be perfect because we have Kenny. And I don't think Irfan Can is somebody you get and he has to play over Kenny. And you can use him as a backup and you can rotate. He's good. He's really good. And he has certain ability. And he has he can come in and have an impact. He can come off the bench and have an impact. And I agree, Irfan Can is a really talented football player. I also think he's an absolute idiot. Not just because of the extension with Fenerbahce, that only adds to his level of idiocy. But I think also just his behavior in general. He gets a lot of cards. He's gotten a lot of red cards in his career because of stupid behavior. But he is a very, very technically gifted player. One wonders why he has been so unsuccessful at Fenerbahce. He had one amazing season. I think that was 2 seasons ago under Ismail Kartal. But at that point, he was already at Fenerbahce for like 3 or 4 years. And like the previous 3 or 4 years were very, very lackluster. You have to wonder why that is. Is he not a good trainer? Is he lazy? Does he have mentality issues? I mean, I think all of the above. I see a little bit of a Salih Uçan there. And I don't think we need another one of those. Frankly.
No, definitely not. No. Let's get rid of ours first.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of adding one.
Yeah. I mean,
before we add one.
I feel the same about Salih. I think the talent is there, but I think the dedication and the ambition just isn't. And I honestly, I feel like Irfan Can is probably the same, because I think if otherwise you wouldn't sign that extension with Fenerbahce, you would put your money on yourself, bet on yourself, and you would go and sign for another team. And he didn't do that, despite the fact that he knows that Mourinho isn't a big fan. And I think, if Mourinho isn't a big fan, there's probably a reason for that. He's not an idiot.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, okay. Then yeah, with that, like I said, I think it would be okay if we can get him cheap. If we can't get him cheap, then let's try someone else who is younger, hopefully, and greater value in that sense, better fit. I can totally agree with that. So, but then the question again, who do you think? Even with these rumors, you have a couple of names in mind of which you think that we're chasing after.
Yeah, I mean the rumor a couple of weeks ago when this news came out that Beşiktaş were in talks with a winger from the Premier League. So one of the rumors that was being pushed by Eagle Media, I think at the time, was Raheem Sterling. And we talked about it at the time, and I think Kartal was very dead set against it. I was very dead set against it. I think Kartal and I talked about this in a transfer talk episode, not in an actual live stream. But like Raheem Sterling, like let's say it's him. I'm less against it now than I was then, simply because we signed Tammy in the meantime. We've signed now Kyle Walker-Peters. We've signed Jurasek. We've signed Orkun. So those are all players in their mid-20s. Kyle Walker-Peters and Tammy are a little bit older. But, Orkun 24, Jurasek I think 25 or 24. So the average age of the team has taken a nosedive, which is very positive because our team was too old. At the time, I was one of the main reasons I was definitely against Sterling was because he is on the wrong side of 30. The other side as well is because he was an amazing player a couple of years ago, but his career has gone downhill. And he will be very, very expensive. I'm less against it now because our team is younger, but I'm still against it because of the aforementioned reasons where, his career isn't exactly in the best spot. I don't know how you would feel about a potential Raheem Sterling signing.
Yeah, not too keen, to be honest. One, being the right fit at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Two, especially age. And three, price, right? I think you're right. He's not going to come cheap. You already have Kyle Walker-Peters, which I think with signing bonus, salary, etc., is also not cheap per se.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Is this then sort of the right one to go after? Well, so it depends on if we have other options, yes or no. So, but it would not be my first choice, to be honest.
According to Oğuz Oruç, Beşiktaş have informed or inquired about Ajax's young winger Mika Gots, Belgian, I believe. Didn't he score against us? So they have inquired about him, supposedly.
Okay.
Oğuz Oruç says that, so I'm not too familiar with Oğuz, so I don't know his credibility levels. But let's put it out there. You're an Ajax fan. What would you think of Mika Gots?
Yeah, so Ajax is cleaning house in that sense. So I can imagine there's opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the list. So he's been mentioned before that he can that he's on the transfer list. I like it. I think I would be in favor because he's very young. He's a lot of potential, but I don't think it's feasible. I think there are also a lot of other European clubs lining up for him in that sense. So I don't think this is going to be I don't think this is true.
No.
This is feasible. Maybe you've informed about it, but I don't see him coming at that age to
no,
especially
like like people like Dutch and Belgian players, like the Dutch players maybe a little bit more keen on Turkey in recent years, but Belgian players not very keen on Turkey, especially not at that age. And I think this is also a player with a bright future. And we were talking about it at the beginning of the show. Is Orkun throwing his career away? I think for Orkun, that is not the case because obviously his love for the club and all that kind of stuff. That is not the case with Mika Gots. So just as I said about Osimhen, I think for Mika Gots, he would be very much throwing away his career by coming to Turkey right now. And I think it would take him out of consideration for the Belgian national team. So I don't see that happening. Also, I think it's not feasible, like you said. I would imagine like at least a 20. I don't know why, but 24 million euros is kind of the number I'm thinking when I think of Mika Gots. So I don't think that's very realistic. So I don't know.
And he's not a bad player. So it's also not that he needs to. So I don't think they even really want him to go.
No. And
yeah.
And I heard earlier that Ajax situation has changed a little bit. Like it's not that pressing anymore for them to sell. I think they want to sell Brian Brobby. And I think there's a couple of other players, but I definitely think somebody like Kots isn't the priority to sell at all. And I think if they're gonna sell him, it's gonna need to be for a top fee. So I think I'm gonna have to shoot that one down. I think.
Yeah, and they offloaded Henderson because he also was on a high wage, so that they're really cleaning up on that side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Gods is a high earner at Ajax anyway.
No,
so
probably not.
No, they're it's a different approach indeed. So okay, interesting, but I don't think it's true either.
Yeah. Another comment from Nasser about yesterday's friendly against St. Pölten. I liked how we played yesterday. The high defensive line stood out, and you could tell from the training videos that they've been working on quick movement and structured transitions. Yeah, definitely, I agree with that, Nasser. There was a lot of that. And again, you have to question the level of opposition and, whether or not that is going to be reflective of how we're going to play against stronger opponents. But you can definitely see what they're trying to get in there. The addition of Johnny Northeast, the new physical coach, is also something that the players are noticing a lot. They said, Salih Uçan mentioned in his post-match interview that his addition to the technical staff has been felt and that it's had a positive impact on the team and that there's been a lot of emphasis on running and fitness. So yeah, I think we're gonna.
Of course, he's the one commenting on it.
Yes, I thought that as well. But yeah, I think we're gonna see a very fit Beşiktaş this coming season. And if for those of you who remember, Johnny Northeast was actually also the physical coach when Valeria Ismail was Beşiktaş's coach. And there's one thing, you can say a lot of bad stuff about that time, but there's one thing that Beşiktaş was, and it was very, very fit. And I think we're looking at a Beşiktaş that's going to be very, very fit and hopefully also very, very good. All right, there's another Kaan in the chat, so we'll just call him Kaan 3.0. Kaan 3.0 says, does anyone know what names Ole and Adala are considering for the wingers and the number 6? I mean, we just speculated about the wingers. There's Kerem Aktürkoğlu, there's Irfan Cankaveci, there's now Mika Götze who's been mentioned, there's Raheem Sterling, there's Okafor from AC Milan who we've been linked with, but that hasn't amounted to anything. There's been a lot of names, but right now I saw tweets earlier from Fatih Doğan, and kudos to Fatih Doğan. He was the first one to report Kyle Walker-Peters. So that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to believe him in whatever he says next, but the next thing he did say is that Beşiktaş are negotiating with a winger right now that is on par with the Orkun Kokcu signing. So, yeah. I think it's going to be a surprise. I think it's probably going to be somebody that maybe has been mentioned before, but not in a serious way. Personally, I hope it's not going to be Raheem Sterling. I hope it's somebody who, we talked about it earlier, well, not somebody where you have to add a lot of caveats. Like, oh, yeah, okay, great player, but, does he still got it?
Yeah.
How is he coming back from an injury, or did he just have a bad? Like, for example, Raheem Sterling flopped at Arsenal this past season. Was okay last season at Chelsea, but not good enough to convince them to keep him. They're really, really wanting to offload him, also because of financial fair play, of course. Jadon Sancho is another person who's been linked.
Oh, yeah.
Not Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling. Sterling? Is that? No, not Raheem Sterling. Who am I thinking? Come on, the Manchester United guy.
Yeah.
Come on. Not Jadon Sancho, obviously.
No.
Come on, how can I not?
What's his name?
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford.
Rashford, thank you, Jesus Christ.
That was it.
So you know what? I think Marcus Rashford, if you're gonna say on par with Orkun Kokcu, I think Marcus Rashford is that, right? But
yeah, I agree.
But that seems so unrealistic, though. So did Orkun, of course, but I don't think Marcus Rashford has been a Beşiktaş fan since he was in the crib. So
Tammy was.
Yeah. But what? Yeah. But Marcus Rashford, also a good friend of Tammy Abraham, as far as I know. So, yeah. I mean, that is the name fans would want, I think. but he is gonna be super expensive, not just in transfer fee, but also in wages. I think he makes about £300,000 a week, Ural. So
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Yeah, that's gonna be.
yeah. I mean, if you're building it up as on the level of Orkun, and he plays in the Premier League, and then the only player I can really think of is Rashford, honestly. But then, of course, I mean, the thing is, like, that depends on the interpretation of whoever is saying it, right? Because some people are gonna interpret Raheem Sterling as on par with Orkun. But I think...
Yeah, exactly, because of the name.
Yeah, exactly, because of what he did in the past at Manchester City. And 2 years ago, Raheem Sterling would be massive, right? If Raheem Sterling would have come to Turkey 2 years ago, it would have been like Osimhen. But Raheem Sterling,
sure.
anno 2025, is not the same thing anymore. So for me, if you're saying, okay, it's going to be on par with Orkun, that's what certain journalists are saying. Yeah, Raheem Sterling does not tick that box. I think Jadon Sancho doesn't tick that box. Although I think Jadon Sancho would be great, don't get me wrong. I mean, on paper.
Would be a big transfer,
yeah,
right?
On paper, Jadon Sancho would be great. He's a very talented player. He did amazing at Dortmund. But he's also somebody has been criticized for his mentality and that kind of stuff. So has Rashford, of course. But I think for Rashford, the criticism has been a lot less fair. I think he has gotten some really exaggerated criticism, and the expectations for him at Manchester United, I think, at the end of the day, they just never really... Like, I feel like the level of criticism he gets is similar to Jetson, where I feel like there's the team around him has never been good enough for Rashford to truly shine. And he has shined in different moments, under Ole, for example, and Ole definitely likes Rashford. So, I mean, I'm going to go on a limb here, and I think it's completely unrealistic, but, just going off of what some people are saying, like Fatih Doğan, like Yaya Sabuncuoğlu in 2 weeks ago, I think Marcus Rashford is a name that matches that description. I don't know about you, but can you think of anyone else?
But there's no truth.
No,
there might not be truth to it.
No.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just too difficult.
Yeah, it's just I'm just going purely off of the description that Yaya Sabuncuoğlu gave 2 weeks ago, that now Fatih Doğan is giving. Other people are hinting at a really, really big name. So I think on it's super unrealistic, but I think Rashford is the only one that really, really matches that profile. You could make an argument for Jadon Sancho to match that profile, but I know Jadon Sancho is close to a move to Juventus. I think Rashford is at least in talks with Barcelona. It is so unrealistic. I think both of those are so unrealistic. So then, Raheem Sterling is an option, but for me, he doesn't. I don't think he matches that description in 2025. But yeah.
No, I agree.
All right, let's.
Okay, then for the sixes, right?
Yeah, the sixes. I mean, I don't know what you think, but I don't know how he did at Brighton, but he was his partner. He was Orkun's partner at Feyenoord when they won the league. Mats Wiever. That is... I could see us going for somebody who has a good rapport with Orkun. So Wiever could be an option, maybe. I don't know how you feel. What do you think about that? Do you think that Beşiktaş are going to look in that? Because, I mean, I think if you're going to do something like that... if you're going to put a transfer on hold, like Jens Kajjuste, and you're going to go with the reasoning of we want someone that really accommodates Orkun, then I think it's almost a no-brainer that you go and you look at his previous partners, right? Isn't that logical?
Yeah, but yeah, I think so. Obviously, he needs to fit the rest of the team, fit the profile. But he has a contract until 29.
Mm-hmm.
He was also transferred for 30 million.
Yeah.
At the time. How feasible is it? Of course, he didn't play much at Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
Do you by any chance know the reason why he didn't?
No.
Was it injury or was
No,
he just not?
I
suspense?
haven't checked. So that would be of course I could actually just quickly check that while
Okay, because I don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't seem so. It just says one game in. I don't know if that's right at Brighton.
I think he played 24 games this past season for Brighton.
Why does it say one? Okay, maybe this is outdated info.
Maybe that's like the new season already or something. Maybe that's like a friendly or I don't know. Let's have a look. So his injuries, he did have a couple of injuries. So in this season he had 3 injuries and he missed a total of he missed a bunch of games. He missed 22 matches because of injury. So the reason he didn't play so much this season is gonna be injuries. And also, I mean, his transfer estimate on Transfermarkt, and again, I always say take that with a huge pinch of salt. But 25 million. I don't think Beşiktaş are gonna sign another 20. I don't know. I mean, after Tammy, I would have told you I don't think Beşiktaş are gonna sign another 15 million player, and we went and we signed 2. I mean,
that's,
you know what I mean.
But,
So it's one of those things. And also, Brighton paid 32 million for him. So definitely don't think Wiever is realistic. There's another former partner of Orkun that currently plays for Benfica. Don't know if you're familiar with him. Also played for Feyenoord. So it's Orsnes. He's 29 years old. He is very key at Benfica. I know that he's a key player there, but he's 29. Frederik Orsnes, that is a name I haven't seen in the media yet. I think it would be logical because they had a good rapport at Feyenoord. They have had a good rapport at Benfica. They play together a lot. It would make sense, I think. But he's also not like a pure defensive midfielder. He's I don't know. It's difficult. I don't know. I think it's the number 6 is probably gonna. I feel like the number 6 and the number and the left winger are 2 transfers that are gonna be like Tammy and like Jurasek, where it's gonna come out of left field with Kyle Walker-Peters and with Orkun. This has been in the media and this has been widely reported and it's been building up. But I think that the left winger, especially if it's this close to happening, if that is true, and it's going to happen in the upcoming days, then I think it's almost going to be, bam, the news breaks, the name comes out, and like the day after he's there. So, I think it's going to be a surprise. We can speculate as much as we want, but at the moment, it's just guessing. It's not even educated guesses. It's pure speculation at this point, I think.
Yeah. But you're not like, okay, just get Kajus and like that's good enough. Let's continue.
Well,
or do you have it like are you of the opinion saying, you know what, if we can get someone else other than Kajus, then rather go for that option?
I mean, personally, I think Kajuste is a really nice profile. I think he's physically strong. He's a real old school number 6, but still with good feet, technically strong. So it's a difficult one. I'm confused, honestly, by the fact that there's claims that they want somebody who is more accommodating and more fits the profile of Kajuste. Or who more matches the profile of Orkun and who accommodates and complements that better. I'm surprised because I would think, looking at Kajuste's profile, I would think that would accommodate and complement Orkun perfectly. So I'm very curious who they're gonna go after. Morita from Sporting is another one who has been mentioned, a Japanese defensive midfielder, 30 years old. I have been told by my source in Portugal that he does not want to go anywhere. He either wants to go to the Premier League or stay at Sporting. So she told me never gonna happen. But that is also a player we've been linked with. And I would imagine that if we put Cajuste on hold, that we at least know, okay, this player is open to a move. So if what she says about Morita is true and he's not open to a move to Turkey, then I think that automatically disqualifies him as an option. So I just hope it's not going to be somebody like Casemiro, you know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, if you look at the transfers coming in, albeit expensive or not expensive, it all still fits the new strategy, right? The new profile or the categories they've announced at the start of the season or before going into the season, that they will go for these profiles, and it doesn't fit players 30 plus anymore, to be honest. And they haven't brought anyone 30 plus, so they're really sticking to, until now, they're sticking to that strategy, to those categories. So, which I think is great news.
Yeah.
So I hope that they will continue on that note, so that they stick with their planned strategy, because I think it's a great one, and it would really help us for years to come. So please leave those sort of big names, which sort of the has-beens, out of our team. If I'm really honest.
I agree with you. It's one of those things, right, where you really don't want to fall back into that trap, and I think you really want whoever it's gonna be, it needs to fit. But I have a lot of confidence in that's gonna happen, because up till now, all the signings we have made really, it's very clear that this is not just random transfers. Like in the past, this has happened a lot. We have had a lot of random transfers. So I do think that, I don't think that's going to happen. I think whoever we are going to end up signing, I think that person is going to make perfect sense. And afterwards, we're going to say, oh yeah, okay, I get it. But yeah, it's right now. It's really just it's speculating, right? And it's a little frustrating for now. But I mean, I think it's also fun. We've already been spoiled so much, and we talked about this in the preseason, and I think in one of our financial episodes, or maybe the election episode, Ural, where if you hit the ground running in the transfer season and you make a lot of good moves quickly, then people are automatically going to be more patient. We're not going, fans aren't going to be nervous.
True.
And I think that is all the case right now. I think there's no need for nervosity in the fan base. We can afford to be a little bit more patient. Okay, I know we have a very, very important game against Shakhtar coming up real soon. But you know what, guys? I mean, I really, really hope we eliminate them. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, if we end up going out against Shakhtar, I don't think it's the end of the world, because I think we are currently in the process of building a really solid team. And the problem is that because of the fact that we're in a rebuild, we're never gonna be in 20 days or less, in 14 days, 13 days even, when we play them. We're never going to be in a place where our new players have been able to settle, where they've been able to build up the necessary amount of chemistry. So even if on paper our team looks the favorite against Shakhtar on the 24th, that still doesn't mean that that's going to happen, because there's going to be so many new players. They're going to need time to settle. They're going to need time to build chemistry with their new teammates. So even if we bring in a left winger, we bring in a number 6, and then we even bring in some depth players, then we're essentially done, right? If we do all that before the 18th, before the deadline for the UEFA list, I still don't think that it's gonna be easy to eliminate Shakhtar. I know Shakhtar had a bad season. I think they finished 4th or 5th in the Ukrainian league, so they had a really bad season. I know that. But that doesn't mean that they're gonna be pushovers. And at the end of the day, they have the advantage of having their chemistry built up already, and we don't have that. And I think if we do somehow manage to go out against Shakhtar, not the end of the world, because I think genuinely if we build a good team and Ole can get it all working and clicking, I know this is gonna be, but I think we have a good chance at winning the Conference League, because the biggest teams in the Conference League are Fiorentina and Nottingham Forest. I think, I don't know who's joining from Germany and such, but there isn't like a massive club in the Conference League this coming season. There isn't the Chelsea. So I think we have a very good chance. I'm not saying we're going to win the Conference League, but I think if we get the train on the rails, I think we have a realistic chance at making it to the quarter or the semifinals and maybe even the final, and who knows. So I wouldn't even think it would be the worst thing in the world if we go out against Shakhtar. And I also think it's not something to be too overly critical of. I also don't think that if we go out against Shakhtar, that then becomes a reason to start calling for Ole's head, for example. Because like I said,
No.
You know, it's he might get the right players now, but that still doesn't mean we're gonna have the chemistry and all that built. And you're at the end of the day, you're still playing against football heritage in a way, because Shakhtar is football heritage in the last 20 years, and even if they are coming off of a bad season, they still have a lot of talented players despite the war going on and all that kind of stuff. But of course,
It's a tough team.
Yeah, it's a tough team, but we play at home first. There will be a lot of positivity behind us. The fans will be behind us. The stadium will be packed. There's going to be a lot of new players that are going to be very motivated to prove themselves. If we can, in that first game, you know, like if we can turn that into a game like against Athletic Club and we beat them 4-1 or something, yeah, then of course the return will probably be not the hardest game we've ever played, especially because it's probably going to be played in Slovenia as well because of the war in Ukraine. So yeah, you know, I don't know how we got to this, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, well, maybe one point on this. I think a lot of people want to see us go to the Europa League because of the final will be played in our stadium. So at least to have some sort of a go at it, a chance that we might end up in the final, which I completely understand. So we just have a tough draw. We're unlucky with that. We're unlucky with the ending of the season. That can all be tied to the transfers that were made in the winter period. Maybe if we had made some real good transfers, necessary transfers, we might have not ended in this place, and we would have been directly going to the Europa League. A lot of ifs and buts, but I hope for really that we win and that we can go to the Europa League instead of the Conference League. But like you said, it's also not the end of the world if we don't make it, especially not against Shakhtar, and then we just go from there, right? So, and especially it will not be sort of Ole's fault, or let's not go into that debate, because I think that's really ridiculous discussion in itself at this moment. He just started, and I just want to see how this transfers go, and him really starting from scratch, and then see the output, and then see the results, and then we can comment if that's good enough or not, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, Ole's season really starts at the start of the Super League season, I feel, and of course, you know, making it to the league stages of at the very, I think that the bare minimum is league stages, Conference League, but we did get a very tough draw, and you know, I don't want to make up excuses or anything, but I do kind of feel like, you know, it's not super realistic to expect us to be ready for that game already. Oh. Not due to fitness. It's not about fitness. It's about team chemistry. You can't build team chemistry in 15 days. Let's not forget that the first. Was it the first? No. This was longer ago. But let's not forget, in 2017-18, Galatasaray did a whole rebuild in the summer We were coming off back-to-back titles. We had a great team. We were favorites to win the title again. Galatasaray rebuilt their entire team in the summer. They got eliminated by Östersund, but they ended up winning the championship. Like, chemistry builds over time. And yeah, I think it's going to be similar for us in the Europa League qualifiers now. We're going to have to be really good really soon if we want to have a chance at eliminating Shakhtar. And that's just something that's, personally, I don't think it is fair to expect us to definitely do that, But things are looking promising in terms of transfers, in terms of the tactics we've seen in the training camp and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a tough task.
For sure.
Let's see this comment here from Nasser again. The biggest plus for me was the variety in set pieces. Okay, we already talked about that. Let's see. I disagree with the friendlies. We talked about that one too. Let's have a look. I think
Nasser about the Zurigo.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just trying to find where I was because Nasser says, I wish we could get Zurigo Davitashvili. What a player he'd be for us. Yeah, Nasser, I think you're spot on there. Again, 24 years old, prime of his career. Great couple of years in France. Playing for a team that Saint-Etienne that relegated, so he won't be too expensive. He has a lot of qualities that we are looking for. I think he checks a lot of boxes. I don't think he'll be too expensive, and when I say that, I do think he will cost between 10 and 15 million euros, which is a lot of money. But when you spend 30 million, what is 10 and 50 million, right? But I don't know. I think he checks a lot of boxes, but I don't know. That's not what they're hinting at right now. They're hinting at a really big name at the moment. Grey Wolf suggests that Jack Grealish is now being mentioned. Yeah, that's a big name, Ural, and as somebody who was really, really, really good at Aston Villa, but kind of the fun that he exuberated at Villa was kind of drained out of him by Pep Guardiola at City. Jack Grealish, what do you think about that name? Let's talk about
that. Let's not go there. I don't think we should attempt. And I don't think he would want to come to. Is he that adventurous? I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think he would want to come.
He is from Birmingham, so maybe.
I don't know. It's okay. I think what is he, like 30 or maybe just below 30?
I don't think he's that old. I think he's probably like 28 or something.
I thought he was older, but that's why I thought let's not go there. But
I'll check.
If he's younger, okay, but I don't know. I don't know if he. I don't think this is very likely.
Oh, he's 29, so yeah, he's from 95, so he's turning 30 in September. So I mean, I don't think he's. I mean, that could be. That seems more like a Fenerbahce or Galatasaray signing,
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about Raheem Sterling, by the way. Grey Wolf says Fenerbahce has ended so many players all the time. They do that all the time, get players so no one else gets them, even when they know they will not use them. Yeah, it's so true. Mehmet Topuz comes to mind. Alper Potuk, Miroslav Stoch. So many players they signed just so the rivals couldn't sign them. They've done it so many times. Now your camera got smaller again. What is going on? I just made a bigger one for you earlier, and I already have two cameras set in now. Now what's the third one doing now? I wonder. Let's have a look.
Okay, I see it now.
You know what? I'm not gonna fiddle with it for now. I think we just want to get because we've been going for a while already. So let's see. Fine. Let's see what Anil Kurtuldu says. Orkun to Beşiktaş. Yes, Anil, that's right. Thank you for the update. Tin says, Kaan, have you talked about your funny exchange with angry Galatasaray fans? No, I have not. Oh my god, man. You know, I think we have some delusional fans and some people who, toxic and all that kind of stuff. But I think part of the territory of Galatasaray having just more fans also comes that, but part of that comes that like 95% of them are mentally, let's you know, they're behind. So there was this comment from this guy who's like claims to be a friend of Osimhen, and he's been like tweeting about I definitely think he has connections with Osimhen, but it's also very clear that he engagement farms Galatasaray a lot. And he basically tweeted yesterday that Napoli have refused Galatasaray's offer despite matching the release clause, which is technically not true because yes, he has a 75 million release clause, but that release clause also stipulates that the transfer fee is paid in at most 2 installments. So the only way to trigger it is if you actually are able to pay in 2 installments. Galatasaray are not able to do that. They want to pay in 5 installments. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I completely understand that. We are paying Orkun in 5 installments as well. We are paying Tammy in 5 installments as well. I completely understand that we are not a super, we are not a Premier League. We are not Premier League teams. So I don't. It's not like I'm making fun of them or anything. But like this guy just said stuff that is clearly not true. He said that Napoli are playing games and are trying to force Osimhen to sign for Al Hilal. And I commented to that post like, look, that's not, it's perfectly normal. Napoli want bank guarantees, and it's perfectly normal for them to ask for them because Galatasaray have a history of not paying transfer fees on time. And then I gave the example of Derek Köhn recently, which was a very small transfer fee. I think they bought him for 3,350,000 or something like that, and they still had 2.5 million outstanding, like beyond the time that they were allowed, and Hanover complained to FIFA, submitted a formal complaint to FIFA according to various very credible sources such as Sky Germany, such as Bild, and also a lot of Turkish sources confirmed that the exact same stuff. Anyway, so I gave that as an example why Napoli are 100% right to ask for bank guarantees. Mind you, I think they are, every club in the world are right to ask bank guarantees from Turkish clubs, because not just Galatasaray, even Fenerbahce and definitely also our beloved Beşiktaş haven't always been prudent payers of transfer fees. So I understand that clubs, especially when you're talking about this type of money, are going to ask for a bank guarantee. You would be stupid not to ask for a bank guarantee for 75 million. So I argued it's only logical. Man, I think I got 300 angry Galatasaray fans in my comments calling me a liar, calling me a orospuchoju and all this kind of stuff, and saying I made this shit up and it's not true and blah and blah and blah and blah and blah. And I told them, look guys, you can fact check me, use fucking Grok or something, Google it on the internet, it's all out there, clear, plain as day. I mean, these people are so... I don't understand. How can you claim to be a fan of a club and not know these things? Either you are deliberately ignoring them and trying to, in some delusional way, trying to protect the reputation of the club online, which I think a lot of fans do, which is stupid. But I also genuinely think that a lot of these people just don't know. They are clueless about this. And it's very widely known that they didn't pay Derek Köhn and that Hanover had to go to FIFA. And that FIFA forced them to pay and that they had to pay interest. So, at the threat of a transfer ban. This is known. This is public knowledge. But these people don't know this. How can you claim to be a fan of a club and not know these things? Then you aren't following, then you're only watching games. And I'm sure there's lots of people who do that. They just watch the games. But then don't come in my fucking comments and tell me I'm wrong when you clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then there's like, oh, he's a Beşiktaş fan. He's just like 90% of the reactions was, oh, of course, he's a Beşiktaş fan. He's a Beşiktaş. It doesn't matter which team I fucking support. I am stating facts.
Yeah, but I think before this sort of turns into a gala, unnecessary gala rant, um, it's very sensitive response. And maybe to close off with, Napoli already declined the 70 million with bank guarantee offer. They want 75 with a bank
Yeah,
guarantee.
of
So
course, of course.
they'll need to they'll need to get some more money
but
or a better bank
But
guarantee.
but
So
Ural,
anyway,
I 100% understand Napoli. They want their 75 million,
oh, of
and
course,
they are right to demand it. But I also
But Benfica asked it as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So because I think
Yeah.
you posted that saying
Yeah.
that Benfica also wants a bank guarantee.
And we gave it.
The point
We
is
gave it.
exactly because the club just announced that.
Yeah.
So that's something that you do, and of course the amount is really high, really steep, and they might arrange it, or they still. That's not the problem. But it's not a delaying tactic per se, especially not with those amounts. I fully agree.
No, of course
you.
not. They have had a formal offer of 75 million cash up front by Al Hilal. So, of course, Napoli are not going to take any less. But also, if there's any Galatasaray fans watching before you start flaming me again, I also understand Galatasaray saying, okay, we will give you the bank guarantee, but then in order to cover the costs of that guarantee, because that costs between 1 to 3% of the total amount over the amount of years that the guarantee is good for, so 5 years in this case, I also understand then that Galatasaray says, well, we will give you that guarantee, but it's expensive, so then we will only give you 70 million. And then the remaining 5 million we will use to cover those expenses. I get that. Yeah. I get that. But I also think Napoli are right to say no. Sorry, 75 million or no deal. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the whole negotiation game, of course. And again, what they have until the 15th, so they have plenty of time to get this done.
I think they will. I think they will get it done if they can get a guarantee for 70, they will be able to get a guarantee for 75. I think this was just them being a little bit cheeky and saying, yeah, okay, we'll give you the guarantee, but then you have to cover the costs. And Napoli said, nope, not doing that. Yeah. And then now Galatasaray tomorrow or the day after will come back with 75 million with bank guarantee, and they will sign Osimhen almost certainly, unless Juventus comes in and says, "Hey, we'll give you more," and then Napoli can say no, But also, it's very Juventus are one of the teams that are really closely following this situation. And this is not the Galatasaray podcast, by the way, but I'm just briefly going to mention this. And then we're going to get off the topic because obviously Tin asked about it, but. Napoli and Juventus, of course, very fierce rivalry. So how willing are they going to be to sell Osimhen there, right? Like I think something this guy also said was they don't, Napoli wants him to go to Al Hilal. I don't think they care, man. Why would Napoli care where he goes? Right? It doesn't matter to him. I think it's much better for him that he goes to Galatasaray than that he goes, for example, to Juve. So I think Galatasaray are a fine option for them. But I also think that they are probably kicking themselves right now for loaning him to Galatasaray last season, because that has now created a very difficult situation for them. They probably would have been able to offload him to Al Hilal by now if it weren't for this. But then again, you have to wonder whether Al Hilal would be willing to pay 75 million for him if he didn't just have a season in which he scored 37 goals.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good deal for Napoli in any case. The rent, the loan amount was really high.
Yeah.
And now they also already indicate they want to pay 75 million, so they get what they want, right? And all of it. So I don't know. It's not a bad deal. Not a bad day of work.
Also, one of the funny things, Orkun, I keep calling you Orkun now. Also, one of the funny things, Ural, is one of those Galatasaray fans said, just a Beşiktaş fan who's afraid. And I just said, well, even with your 75 million striker, we still fucked you. so of course that pissed them off even more. I mean, it's one of those things. I think Fenerbahce fans are genuinely afraid. They genuinely don't want Osimhen to go to Galatasaray. personally, I mean, I would much rather it ended up blowing up in their face, because that would be very demoralizing for the fans and the club and would send them into chaos. But on the other hand, I am also perfectly fine with them paying 75 million euros for one player when they still have a lot of other things to solve. You know, for example, Muslera is gone. They have to get a new keeper. They still have to get new fullbacks. You know, you have to wonder how much money will there be left to spend on other positions if they spend 75 million on Osimhen. But then again, I remind myself this is Galatasaray, and they always seem to find some crazy uncle in Pennsylvania's money somewhere. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to. I don't really care is the point. Like, they can have Osimhen for all I care. I think I'm of the opinion of if we are strong enough, it doesn't matter who they get. That's my opinion. I'm not I'm not somebody who's constantly looking at our rivals and pissing my pants. I just look at Beşiktaş. I don't care what those two do, because those two, I know they spend a lot of money, but they spend it really poorly 90% of the time. So it doesn't really matter.
It's not our pocket, so let's let them. Yeah. And to give a positive twist to it, it's also nice to see that sort of Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray, as well as Beşiktaş, they're really sort of it's a hot transfer season for all three clubs. Mm-hmm. Which is also exciting for the season to come. So, sort of a positive twist to it. Yeah, let them sort of fully load up, and then let's go head to head. This season.
Exactly.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, Ural, but I just want to see us play good football again. And if we win the championship with good football, great. But I just want to be able to enjoy a full season of Beşiktaş and not be miserable in November. I don't really. I mean, obviously, obviously, I want us to win the championship. But if I am happy with a good season, if that makes sense, like good respectable run in Europe, second or third place with good football. If whoever wins the league is better than us, fine. If whoever wins the league because they got helped by the refs in 90% of their games, that's a different story. That will be extremely frustrating. And that's usually how it goes in Turkey. But you know, I mean, I'm fine with all that, man. Like, I just want to be able to enjoy Beşiktaş. I don't really care what those other two do. At the end of the day, with Ole, I feel very confident that we'll be able to beat them at least once each. I think with the players we're getting right now, we're going to be a very tough opponent for both of them. I think we're going to be able to make their lives miserable. I'm looking forward to the season, and I don't really care who they sign. I just care about who we sign, and I care about how we make it work. I have more confidence in Ole than I have in Okan Buruk and in Jose Mourinho to make things work there. With all the respect to Jose, of course. Nasser says Rashford. Barca is strongly linked with Rashford right now. Something I also said. Ömer Gunal says Cajuste frowny face. I mean, you know, I think that would have made sense. So I'm curious what they're going to end up signing. So very curious to see where that goes. Grey Wolf says, I wonder how many players we have are at a disadvantage due to the lack of quality on the team and will shine and show their true quality with better players. That's a tough one, right? I think Jetson is one of those, but I think Jetson is leaving, so that's not exactly super relevant. I think Rafa will perform even better with better players around him. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll score more goals and give more assists, but I think he'll be more influential with better players around him. Is there anyone that jumps out to you? Maybe Kenny Arroyo or something that you think will perform a lot better with a better team around him?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I've read a little bit about the comments about the first friendly, and I don't think his performance was that great. But okay, it's the first friendly.
He was lively.
I don't know.
Arroyo,
yeah, but I don't know if that has to do with a better team around him to be. It looks like he is still a large. I would say that
diamond in the rough.
A big learning curve. Yeah, still to go. So I don't know if it will help to have a better team around him per se, or he just needs to put in the hours and the meters, so to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, Grey Wolf also says, or how many players are being used incorrectly? The metro train goes to the Istanbul airport, which makes traveling easier and pretty cheap. So that's a comment to what we were talking about at the airport earlier. And in terms of how many players are used incorrectly, I don't necessarily think he's being used incorrectly, but I think Jetson is being used in a way that doesn't necessarily show everything he can do. And I also think that influences people's perception of him. I think people are missing certain things Jetson could do, if that makes sense, right? Like, I think they are underestimating him because he is used in a certain way. But other than Jetson, there's not really someone that jumps out, you know?
To me, I'm thinking about it, but I think, and he's now gone, but I think Immobile, if he had better players on the wings, or if they played a different setup, he could have had. I really believe that he could have a better performance last season. So this is also a warning for Tammy, of course, for working with Tammy. We also need to surround him at least with good wings, because otherwise we're going to have, hopefully not, but might up in a similar fashion as Immobile. So yeah, that's a name that pops up in my mind. Say, okay, we need to be careful and we need to be sure that he's fed enough to score the goals, right? Because that was a problem with Immobile. It was not only because it was not Immobile's fault solely, right?
No, and also Nima mentioned something interesting the other day, and is that Immobile really shown in a two-striker system, and maybe Immobile could have been good if we stuck around and played with Tammy Abraham. But then I think he is somebody we had to cut ties with because it was not justifiable to pay him the money we were paying him. I think if Immobile was making the money he's now going to be making at Bologna, $2.5 million a year, then I definitely think we should have kept him and we could have experimented with two strikers. But that's a good point, Ural. I think he's gone, but that's a good point. He could have probably been better with better players around him. Grey Wolf also Akar Gursu says teşekkürler kardeş. So thank you, Akar, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You already did the commenting, but you can always leave another comment if you want. Grey Wolf also adds you avoid taxis and traffic. So that's a great way because of with going to the metro, using the metro to go to the station, of course. Nasser says, not surprised by the Jack Grealish links. He was heavily linked to Manchester United before he went to City and Ole wanted him, but hope these rumors aren't true.
The rumors aren't
true. Then Omer Gunal says, don't bother talking to Galatasaray fans about anything that points out their corruption. Anytime I try to start a conversation about it, they tell me, what about you? What about you? What about you? And that's 100% what happened because, like I said, 90% of the reactions was talking about Beşiktaş. And it's like, dudes, like, that is not the topic. Like, these people, like, they don't understand, man. They cannot differentiate. It's like, I'm gonna make it political right now, but it's like if you criticize Israel, immediately getting called anti-Semites, that's Galatasaray fans. Like, you can't criticize Galatasaray or you're immediately accused of being. I am granted. I despise Galatasaray, but I can still leave that behind and post something objectively. Although I have to admit, like, wasn't necessarily 100% objective, but I wasn't trying to be either. But it doesn't mean like it was still true. So you know what? Sarper says Galatasaray fans are most opportunist human beings. Yeah, that's one way to put it. I do think that, like, that's usually what that does. Like, the most successful teams tend to attract the worst types of people who support them. And I do think, again, like, I have some friends who are Galatasaray fans, and they're great people. But I used to watch football games with my dad in Turkish cafe, and I can tell you, as a child, a 12, 13-year-old child, watching football mixed with grown men, the Fener fans were always nice to me. The Galatasaray fans were always cunts. They were always trying to provoke you, and like a grown-ass 25, 30-year-old man trying to provoke a 12, 13-year-old kid. that to me, that's Galatasaray fans in a nutshell. Like they're the worst. They're the worst. Fener fans, they can be very annoying too, but Galatasaray fans Galatasaray just attract a certain type of person. You know, you have to be a certain.
You've been traumatized.
Yeah, no,
Traumatized at young age.
I always Galatasaray fans. I've always thought they were the worst, man. Like again, there's some good guys out there, but generally, like I have had a lot of negative experiences just with not fun people. Let's call it that way. You know. Nasser says Orkun's move was probably the most publicized one. Same with Kyle Walker-Phillips. Kind of hoping we go back to keeping things quiet for the winger and the 6. Yeah, I agree with that. Sarper says, yeah, man, it was too publicized that I started to think Benfica was using us to raise the transfer fee to Liverpool, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if Benfica was trying to do that, but the reason this move ended up happening is simply because
Orkun stance, right?
Yeah, because of the stance Orkun took. Yeah, he was having none of it. And then the last comment is retracted, I think, from Nasser. I can't read it for some reason, and it's not showing up on here either. So those are all the comments. So I think we've covered everything except Kyle Walker-Phillips. Then, so just quickly your thoughts on Peters. Yes, thank you. I'm thinking of Kevin Phillips. Used to be a midfielder back in the day. So Kyle Walker-Peters. So quickly, just your thoughts on that matter. And are you happy we ended up signing him instead of Osai Samuel?
Yeah, no question. Now, to be honest, I don't think they compare, right? I don't think they. I really don't think they.
I don't know, honestly. I have to be honest, man. I don't really know Kyle Walker-Peters very well at all. Nasser watches a shit ton of Premier League, and all of you guys who watch a lot of Premier League, please drop your opinions on Kyle Walker-Peters. I'm gonna have to find someone to talk about to do an interview about what type of a player he is. Let us know in the comments, guys, because I'm not too familiar with him. I don't know how familiar you are with him, Ural, but like I have to admit, like, yeah,
not that much. But to be honest, I think Osai performing the way he performed at Fenerbahce, which is fine, I guess. I don't think he's the type of player that we're looking for. And then somebody who plays in Premier League. I'm not that familiar with him, but I think I expect he's much better if we're going after him, which might be sort of the opportunistic thing to say. But I think I'm happy that we're moving from Jonas Svensson. Great guy, great player, but I think it's time to just like with Masuaku, there's still people saying that we should have kept him, etc. But we really need to move on and change the team. Yeah. So I'm happy with it. I hope that scouting did their part, and that he's the perfect candidate. And the thing with Osai is also the way, of course, the negotiations went, etc., and the result of it. I'm just happy, and the fact that there's not much interest for him from other clubs outside of Turkey, and the fact that Kyle Walker-Peters had much more interest from other clubs, that also gives me some confidence that he's a much better quality player than Osai.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's quite telling that outside Turkey, the only interest in Osai Samuel was from championship sides, and of course there is this huge Premier League bias as well in England, and you know, a player that has, I don't know how many appearances in the Premier League that Kyle has. I'll look it up quickly, but like it's probably around 200 or something. Like those types of players, they automatically end up on the radar of bigger clubs quickly. But like, for example, Tottenham were interested in getting him back. Chelsea was reportedly interested in him, and of course, you know, these clubs were probably interested in him as a backup player. But still, you know, it's a rotation player or not, it's still top Premier League sides that are potentially interested. By the way, he has 148 Premier League appearances, 12 assists, 2 goals, and he is valued at 15 million euros on Transfermarkt.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
And Nasser also has some information on him. He says he's a quick, technically and solid fullback who can play both sides, but is strongest at right back. He's press resistant, great in 1v1s, and loves to drive forward. Expect overlapping runs, tidy passing, and a calm head under pressure. Well,
sounds great, right? Like,
what do you want more, right?
Yeah.
No, but to be fair, I really think he's a couple of levels up in comparison to Osai.
Yeah, I did read that he isn't the fastest, but personally, I think this sounds like Svensson but better. And I did also read that he isn't necessarily defensively the best, but that's of course at Premier League level. So we'll have to wait and see how he does. Like, I mean, I said this when we were talking about Osai. I think Osai defensively looked a lot better than he was simply because he was able to outmuscle and outpace so many players. I think Kyle Walker-Peters, with his experience in the Premier League, he might not be the fastest, but I still think, Premier League players generally have a good muscular build. They're strong. I think he'll be fine in the Turkish league, and all of this sounds really, really promising and sounds like a cerebral player. And I think that's what we're trying to put together, a team full of cerebral players, not headless chickens. Honestly, I think Beşiktaş in the past couple of years have had so many headless chicken players. Rashica comes to mind. Amir kind of, is kind of one of those types of players. There's just too many of those players.
Onana, don't forget Onana.
Yeah, Onana. Too many of those players and too little quality, I think. And with Jurasek, you have a player who knows what he's doing offensively. Kyle Walker-Peters sounds like somebody who knows what he's doing. Composed is always good. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of teams that try to press in the Turkish league, so that all sounds very good. Nasser also says, while not the most physically dominant, he makes up for it with sharp anticipation and quick recovery speed. So that all sounds great. I mean, when it comes to Kyle Walker-Peters, honestly, I'm not gonna act like I'm an expert on him. I'm going to defer to other people who actually watched him play, like Nasser, our in-house Premier League expert, of course. And of course, guys, if you want to get opinions like this from people with good takes on football, I think Nasser has great insights when it comes to Premier League, but not just the Premier League, I have to say, because Nasser has his finger on the pulse, man. Like, he's watching the league, all that kind of stuff. He's watching so much football. He's watching so many talented players. He has takes on a lot of players. He clearly watches a lot of football. I think he's a great resource in our community, our WhatsApp community. Of course, Ural, with your great insights financially. We have Hakan in there as well, Finnish Kebab, who's not here in the chat right now, but he always has a lot of good takes, I think. There's so many people, Ömer, so many people we've seen in the chat today as well, Greywolfen and all those guys. Like, there's so many people in the WhatsApp community talking daily about football, and really, I think at a really good and educated level. It's really fun to be part of that community, and I invite all of you to do the same. You see the QR code in the middle of your screen there. Just scan it with your phone and hop onto our WhatsApp community. Also consider subscribing to our Patreon. We do extra exclusive content, and you can help out the podcast, continuing to grow and doing fun stuff in the future, and paying the bills, quite frankly. Teams isn't cheap. I just paid the bill the other day. It is 140 euros, so it's expensive to make these things happen. So patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast. Go check that out to become a Black Eagle VIP member, or just click the join button on YouTube and become a Black Eagle VIP member there. I do have to say, Patreon members get a little bit more. There's certain stuff I can't upload to YouTube because of copyright, but I can upload them to Patreon. So Patreon is $1.99 a month. YouTube is only 99 cents per month. Really appreciate it if you consider becoming a member. And you get those cool Beşiktaş emojis next to your name. You're able to use some exclusive emojis on YouTube. So why not double down and become a Patreon member and a YouTube member at the same time? Still only $2.98 per month then in that case. And it really helps us out. So do consider it, but definitely jump on our WhatsApp community, completely free, and we'd love to have you. I think we talked about everything, Ural, so I'd like to thank you.
One point,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because Orkun Ceylan asks, how do we join the WhatsApp community? So maybe it's good to repeat that so that Orkun can join join the WhatsApp community.
So Orkun, if you are watching on computer on your television, you can just scan the QR code with your phone's camera, and that will automatically direct you to our WhatsApp community. But if you're watching on your phone and you aren't able to scan the QR code, you can just go to patreon.com/BEŞİKTAŞ If you become a free member, you don't have to pay anything. If you just become a member of our Patreon, there's a pinned post that also has an invite link and the QR code there. So go ahead and join. Actually, I don't think it has a link anymore. I think it only has a QR code, so you're gonna have to scan it regardless. But you can just open that on your computer. But I think the easiest way is just quickly put this on your television, stream this on your television, or open it on your computer or your laptop or your tablet and just scan the QR code with your phone. It's the easiest way to join the WhatsApp group. And the more the merrier, everyone's welcome. Even if you don't speak great English, no problem. You can come join. Broken English is fine. Learn, improve your English. Talk some Turkish if necessary. Just join the chat, man. It's really great. We're creating even if I do say so myself, I think we're creating a great little community, and there's no toxicity, and yeah, just great people all around.
Orkun joining Beşiktaş, and Orkun Ceylan joins our community. Brilliant.
Great. And thank you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, Orkun. We'd really appreciate that. And hit the notification bell so you can join and you're notified of all future videos and live streams. So yeah, I think that covers it, right? I'm gonna do it again. Ural, why do I keep calling you Orkun? I think I'm too tired or something. Oh, you still hear me, Ural? Can you still hear me, guys? Okay. Okay, I think, guys, are you still hearing me? I think we lost Ural. So I was just questioning whether or not it was my internet going out or if it's Ural disconnecting. I think it's Ural. I'm just doing a quick speed test to make sure. My internet is working, so I think it's Ural. But it doesn't matter. We were winding down anyway. So I would just like to thank every one of you for joining us tonight in the live stream. If you are watching us on delay, I would really appreciate it if you definitely left a like, but also leave a comment. It helps us a lot with the algorithm, getting this video and this live stream out to more and more people. If you are watching and your English isn't great and you still want to watch, then you probably didn't keep it up until now. But we do add subtitles around 24 or so hours later. We do add subtitles. So, oh wait, there's Ural again, by the way. There he is. He's back.
Sorry, I had internet problems.
No worries, no worries. You had me questioning whether or not it was me or whether it was
No. It was this time it was really on me.
Yeah.
The connection fell through, so apologies about that.
I'm just checking if you're back in. Yeah, your screen is back as well. But it's okay. Well, we were winding down anyway. We're ready to check out. So I would like to thank you very much for joining me today and giving us your insights as well from the Dutch perspective, which I think is very valuable. And I think it was a fun conversation. Really enjoyed having you on. And of course, it's goed voor herhaling vatbaar.
Always a pleasure, Kaan, and happy to be a substitute. I hope that I was able to substitute a bit, and next time it will be Sinan and Kartal again joining, hopefully. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, most likely. I am, depending on, tomorrow I am not home, so I won't be able to do a live stream of the arrival. But what I am gonna do, I think I'm gonna do like a full, like a reaction video or something to it. Although I'm gonna watch it live, so I don't know. I am thinking of doing something VIP content related on the arrival, but definitely I think the presentation in the stadium, if that's on Sunday, I think that's something we want to do a live stream for because I think it's gonna be huge. So see you all in the next upcoming days for the next show, and stay tuned to the channel, of course, for additional content. I am going to be looking for somebody to talk to about Kyle Walker-Peters. I am hopefully going to be able to talk to somebody regarding Orkun. So there are going to be videos on those two guys. And then apparently a new left winger soon as well. So I think it's going to be a busy day for the Black Eagles, a busy week for the Black Eagles podcast. So lots of content probably going to be popping up on our channel. So please, guys, do hit subscribe and that notification bell. Always try to leave a like. It really, really helps. And also, if you're watching on delay, especially, and you're not able to join us in the live chat, please leave a comment. That also really helps the algorithm. Thank you very much for supporting the Black Eagles podcast. Ural, once again, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to let you do the honors because you're the special guest today.
So, guys, we did it. Well, Adala did it. He brought Orkun Kokcu. So, congratulations again to all Kyle Walker-Peters. More transfers coming. As Kaan said, watch the space, and long live Beşiktaş.
Let's go Beşiktaş. Peace out, everyone. Special thank you to all our VIP members: Özkan Zevzavaci, Nathan Davis, Finish Kebab, Tristan Frey, Michael Barry, Ömer Günal, Sarah Hansi, Mario Vargas, Lial Tarık, Sebastian Heiner, the Vigilante Turk, Nasser, and of course, yours truly, Ural Alhan, the Dutch Eagle. Thanks a lot, everyone. Peace out, everyone. Bye-bye.